out of apartment 5B.
You're now tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast, where we chop it up about hip-hop, R&B, sports, love and life. Hosted by Kill.
It's gonna be a lot of slow singing and flower bringing if my burglar alarm starts ringing.
What's good? You were to an Apartment 5B podcast hosted by your man Kill. I got my squad with me in effect as always, setting off the new year 2023. I got my bro JP out of Queens, Morgan State alum. What's going on, good brother?
What's good, brother? Thank you for having me as always.
No doubt. Before we even get into this, we have talked about this. You got a new project that's out. I want you to shout it out. Let everybody know where they can get it. Everything.
I got a new EP I put out a few weeks ago. It's called Flourish. It's on, you can cop it now on jpazmusic at bandcamp.com. That's jpazmusic.bandcamp.com. And it should be up on the streaming services, probably in the next few days. So it'll be on all the digital platforms. So.
All right, no doubt. But like we always tell people, if you want to support the artist, Bandcamp is where it's at. So, if you truly, and I'm challenging people in 2023, if you fuck with something, don't just like it, retweet it. If you really fuck with something, just don't stream it, buy it. You know what I mean? So, please support that. Vague, what's going on? Brooklyn's in the house. What's good?
Happy New Year, everybody. This is not a toupee. It's my hair. It's not dyed. Nothing. Just because, it's a bunch of old heads on here. So, you know what I said? I was like, you know what? Usually I grow my hair in the winter, but I was like, I'm lucky to still have it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I need to stop chopping it off at every second because that's the look I prefer. So don't be surprised if you see me with twists and long hair because I've done it before. So.
All right. Don't do no Jimmy Butler. Don't pop up here with no damn.
Real shit.
Dreads down to your shoulders, bro. Like
not a week.
Last week you had twists. Now you got dreads down to your shoulders, bro. Don't do Jimmy Butler.
You shouldn't have said that. Now you know I'm gonna go buy a wig and just pop up with this shit like. What?
JR, the R&B guru, youngest in charge. What's going on, good brother?
What's going on? Happy New Year to everybody. Ready to get back started with this.
All right. Illadelph brethren in the building, bro. What's going on, man?
Happy New Year. Happy to be back on here. Let's go.
All right. You already know what it is. Look, today's show is going to be all about your resume. And what I mean by that is a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, DJ Quick was on Twitter, and he was saying that he feels as though his name should be mentioned in the same sentence as Dr. Dre, on the same, room as Dr. Dre or whatever. I don't agree at all. And, Porsche, my wonderful co-host who is not able to be with us today because she's on strike again, was saying, Quick's name should be right there, whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, what's Quick's resume? Like, what's the resume that needs to be put out there that Quick has done? Because, I'm like, it's like a versus battle. If I throw out Deep Cover, what is Quick throwing out that's going to rumble that? If I throw out Straight Outta Compton, what is Quick going to throw out to do that? So I'm like, what's Quick's resume? And it got me thinking, like, what would be some of our favorite artists' resume? Like, what would somebody say DJ Quick's resume? Like, what would be the top 3 things that they would put to say this is why Quick deserves to be, in the same room as Dr. Dre? And real quick about resumes, one thing that I love that my job has started doing, we went through this whole DEI training. We've been doing it for 2 years, and what we do is when we get resumes in, our office assistant blocks out everything. The only thing that when the resumes come to me, the only thing I can see is your qualifications. I don't see your name. I don't see where you're from. I don't see where you live. I don't see what college you went to. Why? Because of biases. If JP's, resume came across my desk and I see, he went to Morgan State, guess what? I may call that person back just because they went to my college. I've heard a lot of organizations have said, places have said like, yo, oh, that's an address from Southeast. So no, we ain't hiring no people from Southeast. You know what I mean? So it could be biased in a good way, like, oh, that person's from Queens. JP may call them back because they from Queens. It could be in a bad way, you know. Oh, I'm not hiring that person. This say Fort Grant, you know, say Brownsville. I ain't hiring nobody from Brownsville. Even to me, like when I was looking for a job about 10 years ago, you know, my middle name is Kendall. So I started using that on my resume, Kendall Kilpatrick, because it sounds more white. Maybe I'll get more phone calls than Rahman Kilpatrick would get coming back. So that's one of the reasons why I like what my job does, is because all we're focused on is the qualifications. There's no bias whatsoever. And they do this a lot on ESPN too. They'll say like, hey, this player, here's all this player's accomplishments. Do they belong in the Hall of Fame? And then they sit around and they say, based off of that, yes. And then they show you the play. And a lot of times people are shocked. Like, oh shit, like if you would have just said that person's name, I probably wouldn't have put them in the Hall of Fame. But once you show me their accomplishments, so there's just a lot of bias that goes around. You know what I mean? So we're going to get into that conversation if you guys think Quick should be in that conversation. But today we're just looking at what, you know, I told everybody pick 5 people. You can pick 5 MCs, group singers, however you put it together. And just what do you think are their top 3 things on their resume? I'll start it off. I got Primo for one of mine. I have one of his dopest accomplishments is he has worked with 5 of the GOAT MCs ever. And Nas, Biggie, and Jay. Also KRS and Rakim. With the Nas, Biggie, and Jay, I believe that he has given them some of their dopest moments on wax. So it's not just like some sidebar, oh, he gave them some old, no. We talking New York State of Mind. We talking Nas's Life. We talking Second Childhood. We talking about The Evils. We talking about So Ghetto. We talking about Friend of Foe. Friend of Foe Part 2, A Million and One Questions, Unbelievable, Kicking the Door, 10 Crack Commandments. Yo, KRS was dead in the water to me after that whole, you know, sex and violence, and he brought him back from the dead without it and Return of the Boom Bap, you know. What was that joint? What was my joint? Rappers Are in Danger. Like that was just crazy to me. You know what I mean? So to me, that's one of his big accomplishments. Another one to me is he's part of one of the dopest groups ever in Gang Starr. You know, like, you know, you can really look at that. I know Vague doesn't include the first album, you know, with No More Mr. Nice Guy. If you just start off with Step in the Arena to Daily Operation, Hard to Earn to, you know, Moment of Truth. And I'm one of the few people who really fuck with the owners too. You know, like that's an incredible discography. The third thing I have is that Preem was one of the first people who really invented stabs. And for people out there, like back in the day, you know, you would just let a sample play. So you hear Dead Presidents, you just let it play. Preem was like one of the first to really like, when you have a sample on a pad, you would just like, what is it? B.I. versus Friendship would be like, bum, 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 dun, dun. So like he really was the one who brought stabs to hip hop, and it wasn't just like let the sample play. And a lot of producers have emulated that. So like for me, those would be 3 things that I would say like Premier has accomplished, and that's on his resume right there. JP, who's one of your first people, bro?
I have Teddy Riley on my list. And you know, he's one of the most influential producers in my life. But as far as accomplishments are concerned, he is the one. When you think of New Jack Swing, you think of Teddy Riley. He ushered in a genre, you know, a subgenre of music, so to speak. You know what I mean? That was wildly popular. Another accomplishment is that he kind of introduced, you know, the talk box to our generation. You know what I'm saying? It was Roger before him, and then him with, you know, with all that he did on with the voice box, not auto-tune, but you know, the voice box.
Right.
And then one of his biggest accomplishments to me is he gave Michael Jackson one of his biggest hits, and that's Remember the Time. Like when you think of classic Michael records, you think of Thriller and, you know what I'm saying, Off the Wall. But after that, as far as big hits that we rock with, Remember the Time is that's what you're thinking about, and that's a big deal. Not too many big producers can say, I gave not that I did a song for Michael Jackson, but I gave him a hit record that people know. So that's a big accomplishment for him.
That's definitely dope. Vay, who you got up for yours, man?
If you listen to my podcast, you know where I'm going with this. the GOAT, LL Cool J. Y'all gonna have to stop, man. This man, I know he be having the one pants leg up. So what? He a senior. Let the senior do what he do.
You better preach, man.
Oh my God!
You better let him know something.
You know, but like, you know, when he coined that term, you know, around that time I was like, man, fuck out of here. No, you're not. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I was on my lyrical, spiritual stuff, like nicer than Rakim and nicer than Nas, and I was going that way. But then I had to think about it. The longevity. This man has had hits, whether it's radio hits or hardcore hits or a posse cut he don't even belong on, in decades, right? This man was on the charts, in the clubs in different decades. The middle of the 80s, the 90s, the Death Row era, the Bad Boy era, the G Unit era, the Death Row era. He had hits in Eminem's era. He still had it. Dipset, all
Nigga,
of
the
it.
Run DMC era.
Run DMC era.
Yeah, the EPMD era. Like,
Right.
we need to keep going, bro. Like,
Right. And I think, like, at first, you know, because I did a whole podcast on it, you know, then really tried to break it down compared to people who we usually say. And, you know, when you talk about longevity, you know, people will say, you know, oh, Too Short, you know, had longevity. But LL had a legacy of success at a top level through decades. Too Short lasted long, and he's still somewhat relevant. But he had periods where he would drop albums, and no one really was checking for it until he had Blow the Whistle, right? But LL was consistent, even when he flopped. He found a way to come back, even if it was just a song. So I always looked at before there was the Nas, right, with Hit Boy, before there was Jay-Z doing what he does, and any other legend from the 90s that we want to say, oh, they're still around, LL had already done it. You know what I mean? And he done it on a radio level for the ladies, but he also did it for the fellas, because a lot of times when we talk about posse cuts, I mean, he's on a lot of them, right? And we may not like his verse every time, Bad Boy, the Flavor in the Air remix, but at the same time, just to have that name. Yeah, but some people
I don't know what Blow Tissues means, but I wasn't mad at it.
we didn't, right, exactly. Like, we was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but it's LL. Like,
I don't know what Cliche is. I don't know what Blow Tissues is. That nigga was
right. But I think in a lot of regards, you know, he kind of set a tone for how you continue to evolve without sounding corny because you're older. And it lasted for him for a very long time. It took a very long time for this man not to have a platinum album, which is crazy. Even with albums we didn't really necessarily like. So longevity.
Let me ask you this, Bag, real quick. Do you think, as far as, because you know now we're seeing MCs have longer careers now, but do you think LL was that one of those the first MCs to still later on in his career be accepted and have those hits? Like, was he the first one to really? I mean, there were people who make albums older, but nobody's paying attention, or songs didn't pop. You know what I mean?
I think he was, because again, like, I was giving this dude an example. I was like, you know, in 9-5 when I came to Morgan, or maybe that was 9-6. I mean, I came to Morgan in 9-5, but talking about the release of the song. You could point to times where we're talking about people like Tupac, right? And club hits he had, and the Bad Boy stuff, and Fugees and all that. But LL had doing it, and it wasn't a whack record. You know what I'm saying? And people party like he might as well have been one of them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I kind of looked at it like, not that it could be duplicated, but he showed that rappers can have longevity and still be relevant in what they do. And it was just dope that he can have both sides. He didn't just commit to the club because that was the only thing that was working for him through his career. The other thing I had was performance. Shout out to Mav Hoffa, but I saw it myself, not in person, but I saw it in a video. But he said, one thing about LL you could never take away from him. When he did that Rock the Bells joint, he had a velour suit on in the summer. He did a 2-hour set. all hits, and the nigga wasn't sweating
At all. Yeah.
And when you watch LL, he don't stand still, right? He will move all over the stage dolo, no pyrotechnics, no dances, no nothing. So I think in a lot of regards, he also maintained his performance, right? Because he could easily just sit up there and the crowd reacts because we all love the hits and we do the work for him. But he tries to give a good show to this day, which is crazy. And the last thing I would say is, and I kind of already mentioned this, but his versatility, right? He's not a dude who you can just say, well, once he started having party hits or making songs for the ladies, that was kind of his lane. Rampage, right? Mama Said Knock You Out, 4 3 2 1, Battling Cannabis. Like, this dude was battling dudes in the different decades where he should have been. Well, he didn't win the battle to me, but nevertheless, just the fact that LL was battling cannabis at the height of his
not
career.
today, Big. Not today.
Wait, what you talking about?
Rel, we ain't getting into this today, Rel. LL round Rel, dude.
No. Vague is bringing a tear to my eye. I'm just going to disregard that last comment.
Enjoy the moment. Just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, I'm just going to enjoy the moment, man.
Right. But look, just the fact that he was able to battle one of the hottest rappers, and you know, his bars were unbelievable to us at that time. We didn't think, oh, LL's probably done after this, but he wasn't. You know, he had some of his biggest hits after that battle. So his resume is Trump tight, man. He's like a day one hire. Like, don't say no more, man. I mean, put your pants leg down, but you got the job.
He like, yo, we got a dress code, bro.
And he's been in battles with several MCs. He wasn't afraid of the battle. He's been in battle with several MCs over his career.
And JP, that's what I was gonna say. You're not my kids out here in DC call it ducking that wreck. You don't really want to fight nobody. They're like, Mr. Kill, he ducking that wreck. He won't.
Okay.
That's what I loved about him. He was never ducking no wreck. It was like Ice-T, Mo D, whoever step up, Cannabis. He wasn't ducking no wreck. It's the same thing we talk about with Heavy D. Like, you know, Heavy D is doing songs with Biggie Smalls. You know what I mean? Like, LL is on songs with Prodigy, Keith Murray, and Fat Joe. You know what I mean? And holding his own doing that. Yeah. You know, and thanks to your longevity piece, I always tell young boys, yo, I was 10, 11 when my radio came out. You know what I mean? I can't live without my radio. I was 11. When I Shot You came out, I was 20. That's a long ass time, my nigga. Like, when you really sit there, dog, that's 9 years. In 9 years in hip hop, it's like dog years. Like 9 years to stay relevant in hip hop, it's like 25 years in real life.
Right.
You know
what I mean?
hadn't seen
it before. Like, we hadn't seen no one do it before.
Everybody fell off. Every run fell off. PE fell off. Everybody had fallen off to some extent. Whereas L was like, you know, I mean, that Mr. Smith album, I mean, you know.
That was a huge record. Huge album for him. Huge album.
Yeah, so, you know, I told, like you said, I love it. Day one hire. We ain't even gotta do nothing. It's like that commercial with Slash be playing the guitar and they're like, yo, you're hired. Like, what are you doing? Like, so yeah, I like that. Day one hire. What's up, man?
And I got one bar. This is when I knew. I was like, yo, he might be dope. When that nigga said, fuck who's legendary, I'm trying to get this money, drop a bomb on him, pierce the nipples, throw the LL charms on him. I was like, this the same nigga from 84? Yeah. So, yeah, man. Shout out to LL Cool J.
No doubt. I ain't mad at that. I concur 100%. JR, who you got up for us, good brother?
I'm gonna start with Marvin. I'm gonna say one of his first accomplishments, because I feel like all three of these he kind of changed the game with it. He was actually the first R&B male soul star, R&B wise anyway, because before then, when you think of the ones that came before him, like Sam and Jackie and Nat King Cole, they were doing ballads and standards and all this. When he came with Stubborn Kind of Fellow, it was different. It was like, oh, a whole new landscape now. Now, you know what I'm saying? It was a whole different thing. So he was kind of like that first star that kind of like changed the landscape of R&B music, to be honest. And then I say What's Going On changed music, period. Like, there was nobody talking about social issues. I mean, they were, because Donnie and Roberta was talking about it, but they weren't popular yet. Nobody really knew them. So when he did What's Going On, it was like, oh, okay, we could do an album full of social, religious, everything, because nobody wasn't doing that. People in the 60s weren't even making great albums, first of all. So he gets to this and does a great album, and then all of a sudden, everything opens. That's why we get Philly with Gamble and Huff with all of this social conscious music, and it goes from there. And it's just that he started that. And this last one, I think now we recognize it, but back then we didn't. He was the first one to talk about his marriage before anybody. Nobody was discussing it. I mean, he did one song on Let's Get It On, which just to keep you satisfied. It was just one song. That was it. But other than that, he did Here My Dear, and we didn't respect it then, but we do now, because there's so many people that does albums about their life and their marriage and this. If he didn't do that, we wouldn't have it. So those are like the three things I think Marvin's resume, because he changed music with every last thing that I said. So.
And JR, could you tell him a little bit about why he did Here My Dear?
Oh, he was him and Anna Gordy were married, and he went to court, and they said that for the next album she'd get all the publishing for it. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna go in and make an album, just some bullshit. And he started to get in his feelings about it. And he made a whole album about how he had to pay her when he met her. Like, he went, if you listen to that album from beginning to end, it tells you the story of their marriage. And he put it out, but it did nothing, because everybody wanted that I Want You. He just came off a sexy ad album like I Want You, and you give us this? We don't want to hear this shit. Like, we want to hear that. And people didn't respect it, but now we do. It's like, oh my God, this was the blueprint right here, but we didn't think about it back then. So.
I tell you, that may be the hardest thing in the history of soul music, that I got to give you all my publishing. Bet. Let's talk.
His wife, though.
Yeah, let's talk. You want to know about, you want the publishing? Bet. Well, I'm going to give you the publishing, all right. Like, you going to get the publishing, everybody going to know our business. Like, I got.
Hell yeah. He's like, I got to pay these attorney fees. She got to live the life that she was. Man, fuck that. Like, he was going off, yo. Like, he was angry. But he went into it like, I'm going to just do some bullshit, and he got in his feelings. That's an artist. That's the definition of an artist. You went in there like, all right, I'm going to just make this joint just to get it over with, but then you start getting in your emotions like, I really got to pay this chick? This? Are you crazy? She wasn't doing nothing but at the house. Like, this is what, so that's why we got Here My Dear.
No doubt, no doubt. Bro, who you got up for us?
All right, so before I say who I got, LL was on my list, but I'll do that later. The first I got De La Soul.
All right.
And the three things for them is I think they introduced a new style on their debut. Nobody was doing nothing remotely close to that. It was very risky, to be honest, especially back then, because when people don't fuck with you back then, that's it. Like, you really had one chance, you know what I'm saying? And they came out and did their thing with a style that no one was doing, you know what I'm saying? And it was very risky because of the whole hip hop perception thing of being like, it was the opposite of what we were used to, all of our favorites behaving like and dressing like and sounding like, you know what I'm saying? And the next thing is they did not waver from their style, their roots. Example, Stakes is High. Stakes is High came out in a time when, what year was that? 90?
It's like 97,
97,
96.
About the hip hop in that at that time, it was nothing like what De La Soul was putting out there, and they put that album out. It was that's one of my favorite albums because it was defiant. You know what I'm saying? It was like, we're gonna do us in this time where that wasn't what was popping. You know what I'm saying? And the third thing is they have a underrated longevity because they have a lengthy career. If you really think about their first album all the way to Grind Date, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a long time of dopeness to me. So I think they have an underrated longevity within their career.
What year did Grind Day come out? Like 2000. It's sitting here in my hand, and I just
Definitely early 2000.
need glasses. I just gotta break down and get glasses, y'all. I don't know. I gotta use my damn magnifying glass.
2004.
Oh, okay.
Go get your glasses.
I know. Again, just like with LL, I was in 9th grade when Potholes in My Lawn came out. So I'm 14. 2004, I'm what, 30? You know what I mean? Like, that's a nice grip right there to go from 14 to 30. That's what, 16 years?
And they've never broken up either.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and definitely never giving you the same album twice either, in my opinion. You know, I knew people who weren't really in love with De La Soul's Dead because they were waiting for 3 Feet High and Uprising.
Right.
Again, I knew people who weren't in love with Balloon Mind State because they was waiting for De La Soul is Dead. You know what I mean? So again, just another thing of being super artistic. One thing I forgot about Primo was his minimalistic production. What I mean by that is he's one of the few people who, when we were at 889 and Roots had milk crates where we play the original sample and then play the person who used it, 90% of hip hop, if I put that needle on the record, you're gonna hear the sample as soon as you hear it. With Primo, nah. Primo may have taken 2 seconds of this and just turned it into an entire song. You know what I mean? When I Gave You Power by Nas is a great example. So my Jamal record, and I would play it for people and they'd be like, what's that? I play it again. I still don't hear nothing. And I like literally have to point out the 2 seconds that Primo took from a song to make I Gave You Power. And it was very, I think he really set it off with that minimalistic thing. Next up I got is Pete Rock.
Hold on,
Yes,
Kill. I forgot to say this joint about Marvin too. He worked with every producer at Motown and got a hit from him. The only artist that did it.
Now you gotta break that down for us mere mortals. Because for me, it was just the Funk Brothers. So when you
the Funk Brothers are the band. We talking about he worked with Holla Doja Holla, Norman Whitfield, Ivy Jordan Hunter, Valerie Simpson, and you know what I'm saying, Ashford and Simpson. He worked with basically all Barrett Strong, like all of the producers at Motown. He got a hit from them. Nobody at Motown could do that. I mean, he worked with Smokey. Like, he got a hit from every producer and songwriter at Motown. So it didn't matter if you worked with him, you were going to get a hit from him. So that just goes to show he's a hit maker. You know what I mean? So I forgot that.
All right. Dope point. I did not know that. Next up, I got the Chocolate Boy Wonder, Pete Rock. One of the first things I got for him, invented filtering. For producers out there, JP knows filtering is when you would take the highs out the sample to get a bass line, listen to Dead Presidents. Damn near listen to almost any hip hop album song post 93, between 93 and probably 98. You know, if you're listening to Dead Presidents.
A filter? Like, what is that? What is that? Like,
right. So basically what it is like you get a sample. Like, say if you're listening to Lucchini, right? Camp loves Lucchini.
Right.
You get that sample, and what would happen is you take all the highs out of it. So all you have is the bass. So you kind of get a bass line. So in a lot of songs, if you're listening to Lucchini, especially if you like just YouTube the instrumental, you'll hear what would happen is we would place the regular sample on top of the filtered bass line. And then throughout the song, we would take the sample out. So you just hear the bass line. So if you listen to Dead Presidents by Jay-Z, there are times when Ski is taking out the whole sample and he's just rhyming over the filtered bass line. You know, he said he was at Eddie F's house one day messing with the S950, just moving buttons around. It was like, yo, that's a bass line right there. Like, so Pete was the first to do that. The second thing with Pete is he invented the echoing horns. Anybody who knows anything about hip hop, and again, I don't want to say it like that because a lot of times people just don't pay attention. Like, one of my favorite, and it just transcended everything. Monica's Before I Walk Out My Life. There are echoing horns in that. You know what I mean? And it's just, an echoing horn is just a da 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 da. But if you listen to almost any song in hip hop during that era, there are echoing horns, you know, and every producer has used it. Keep It Moving off of Smith & Wesson's album. Beatminerz didn't do a lot of echoing horns, but they echoed the horns on Keep It Moving. You know what I mean? So it was just a staple, and it's a thing in the SP1200 called multi-pitch, where you're able to do that. So he kind of pioneered that. The man made the SP1200 into a damn near household name. This is a book that I got called the SP1200. It interviews like over 50 producers, and at least 40 of them all said, I brought the SP1200 because of Pete Rock. I looked on the back of the main ingredient. I saw that was the drum machine he had, and I got it because of Pete Rock. So I mean, like, to me, his name is synonymous with the SP1200, just like Gang Starr, part of a legendary group with Pete Rock and CL Smooth. And last but not least, again, shout out to my co-host Porsche. He made Troy. He made possibly one of the greatest hip hop songs.
Enough said.
No argument there.
Yeah.
Man made Troy. So again, that's what I got for Pete Rock. JP, who you got up next on your list, man?
The next artist I had a group was Run DMC. And
that we will be doing a show. We will be doing a salute show on Run DMC because this new generation does not know enough about Run DMC.
Oh no!
This is what I'll say, and you can say it's debatable, but I really don't think it is. Run DMC is hip hop's first superstars, without question.
I agree.
Superstar.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Curtis Blow was big, and you know, but superstars like on a national level, hip hop's first.
Here's the wild part, JP. Fuck national, worldly level.
Yeah, true.
Worldly level.
Also, you know, they were synonymous for blending hip hop and rock with the rock tracks, with Rock Box and King of Rock, which I love. King of Rock way better than Rock Box. King of Rock, that's one of my favorite Run DMC songs. Even it was a single with the, you know what I'm saying? I didn't love Rock Box, but King of Rock was my joint. And also, another big accomplishment outside of the music was when you think of Run DMC, they're the first group that you would associate with a brand, and that's Adidas. Like before there were deals and endorsement and all that, just because that's what we wore. That's how they rocked it. You thought when you thought of Run DMC, you thought of Adidas. So that was like a first thing, like associating a group with an actual brand, a sneaker brand. So that's my 3 accomplishments for them.
No doubt. And yeah, we're doing a salute show to Run DMC because people really need to understand it. I think something else Run did was bring the streets to hip hop. Because prior to Run DMC, you know, Furious 5 and dudes was dressing like wrestlers and the Village People and everything. Right. You know, you know what I mean? These niggas got on gloves and, you know, the bracelets and everything. And it was like, I remember in one of the books I was reading, and Russell was like, nah, like, we gonna dress like Jay dresses. Like, Jay was really the hood dude.
Right.
It was like, yo, we gonna just dress what regular niggas dress like. You know what I mean? So for people watching, like, that's a huge account. Like, hip hop wasn't always just wear what you wore today on stage. Like, no, niggas had costumes in hip hop. It was like, if we all was a group right now, we got to go get changed before the show. You know what I mean? With that too, you know, so that's a huge feat that Running them accomplished, you know, for hip hop. Not to mention the first hip hop group being played on MTV. Like that's, you know, these dudes are like the Rosa Parks and the Martin Luther King of hip hop. Like they were kicking down doors for other people to be able to do. There is no Lecoq Sportif deal for Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince without that deal. There is no Troop deal for Stetson Sonic and LL Cool J without the Adidas deal. Like those things aren't happening. There is no G-Unit sneakers. There are no Jay-Z sneakers. Like none of that exists without Run DMC. You know what I mean? So we have to do like a family tree for people to really understand, like without them, a lot of this shit that you see and have right now is not possible. You know, not to mention the first hip hop group to be in a movie, like Crush Groove, like that basically was Run DMC's movie. You know what I mean? Like the accomplishments could just, their resume is like a damn wish list. It just keeps going and people don't get it because I remember being a shorty spazzing the fuck out like, yo, the Fat Boys and everybody's on the big screen. Like that was unheard of. Like we couldn't even turn on our TV and barely see hip hop, let alone go to a movie theater and see like our heroes on. Like it just, So yeah, JP, we could be here all day, but we'll say
All
that for
day.
sure. But
All day.
definitely Run DMC. What you say, Vague? What you call it? Day one higher.
Day one higher, yeah.
Day one higher. Easy. Vague, who you got up next?
All right, I don't mean to keep having these intros, but I like the topic a lot, and obviously as a music fan, I have a lot of favorites. But anybody who knows me, especially since I was a shorty, said it on the show before, say it again. If you know me, Michael Jackson is my Lord and Savior. You better not say anything. Okay? Don't say a word. Okay? But no, just joking. Honestly, I picked Michael Jackson not because it's an obvious pick, but I think over time you look at Michael Jackson and the thing that's left is, he was highly successful. So all the other accomplishments kind of get downplayed, and it happens with a lot of legends, right? You just pick whatever the hottest point or most successful point of their career is, and they kind of become that. With Michael, looking at his resume, obviously the first one is impact. If you can go to a country where people are warring and they stop the war to attend your concert, there's no greater impact than that.
That's insane.
Right.
That is insane. Like, time out.
Right.
Like,
We're going to party together. We're going to enjoy the show. Then we're going to kill each other.
I'll beat your ass in the morning.
Right.
Right. And
Yo,
I remember...
real quick, Ray, have you ever heard of a kill car?
A kill car?
Crime Stopper?
Yeah, Crime Stopper. It was this cat in Baltimore. He was a Baltimore hood legend. And they called it CNN or one of the people came out, networks came out, and they called him the Crime Stopper because everything would stop in Baltimore to go watch him play basketball. No drugs got sold, nobody got killed. The crime rate dropped to 0 whenever he played basketball. And his nickname was the Crime Stopper because it was like, whenever he hooped, ain't nobody getting shot. Like, we just gotta keep this nigga playing basketball every day, all day. Keep this nigga on repeat or something like that. But it just made me think about that when you said that with Michael, because that's a huge feat that niggas stop shooting at each other to come watch you play basketball. Like, nigga, you nice as fuck if we like, all right, like you said, JP, chill, Sunday morning truce, Kills playing, let's go watch him hoop, and then we'll get finished when he finished. But sorry, Jake, but back to Mike. Sorry.
Right. No problem. And I mean, when you think about the impact, not just even that level, the impact that he's had on the music game from influencing other artists and younger artists and being an inspiration for other people we call legends when he was looking up to legends and working with legends. And one of the other things is his success, right? Because Billie Jean was on MTV also, right? And was it Billie Jean or Thriller?
Billie Jean.
I don't remember which one came first, but they were
Billie Jean. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Billie Jean.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's 2 and 2, right? He's such a huge star with the Thriller album, even though he'd been around for years, especially with his family and as a soloist before that. But his impact was so great, and his ability to pour emotion into his singing was so it touched people in such a way, even to this day. Like when my son Shane, when he was a baby, he's born in like 2007. He loved Michael Jackson, but I didn't understand why. I know I'd say I'm a fan, but it wasn't like I was playing Michael Jackson every hour on the hour. Right?
Right. You like walking around the house with a Thriller jacket on.
Right. Like, well, my dad like it. I like it. But it was something about Michael Jackson's voice, the way he sang, the passion, being convinced. And again, this is a lot with Thriller and his impact. But one time on Strictly Hip Hop, I used Michael Jackson as an analogy, talking about influence for hip hop artists. And, I had to take the time out to say, anytime you can make a song about motherfucking monsters convincing enough as far as just being hot, you're special. Because when you break them lyrics down, you start to say, it's kind of some bullshit. But you start to think about that video, you know, that zombie that turn around and it's Michael again and he start dancing and shit. He was just infectious. You know what I mean? So, and one last thing on that before I go to the last piece is the other day I was Motown 25 came across my YouTube, and you know I ain't seen that in years, and I just had to think like, damn, I watch shows and it's like 50 dancers, you know, pyrotechnics, a feature, another artist get on stage and perform with the artist. Michael Jackson was up there with a hat, and all he did was bring the hat to throw the shit in the crowd. That's all he did. And we said, oh, this is the greatest performance ever. But it was just him. Right? It was just him. They didn't change the set or nothing. This nigga just put on my shit and I'm going to perform. So obviously impact, success, and that third one was performance, because that was his biggest thing. You know, cool, the record's dope. In the studio, he's dope. But as we said earlier, you go to the show. If you've ever been to a show, you ever seen a show, it's a show. Like, those people are drenched, passing out. You know, you probably lost 30 pounds being in that crowd. You know what I'm saying? Just because the energy is consistent and the show is tight. So I think Michael Jackson doesn't get enough props for performance, even though we all know. You know what I'm saying? We just don't hear it enough. But another one for y'all to go, for those who don't know, it's not just Motown 25, but he did a set on JR. You may remember this straight off MTV, like in I guess the 2000s, something like that, early 2000s or late 90s. He did a set on MTV, and he hadn't done it in a while. And when I tell you, it's amazing to watch him at that time perform. You know, not by himself, but he had a set.
You talking about the VMAs when he did Dangerous and all that? Yeah, in '95, right. That was crazy.
It was crazy, man. And for anybody who hadn't seen it or hadn't seen it in a while, even if you go back and watch it on YouTube, you remember, right? It's like with the legends. You see him, you're like, yeah, that's why he was great, because of that. You know what I'm saying? So day one hired. No, shit, you want my job, Michael? That's the kind of hire he is.
And when it comes to Mike, all I gotta say is the moonwalk. That was it. You saw Motown 25 live. Yeah. And when he moonwalked, I think the whole world fucking lost his mind. Like, yo, what the fuck? This nigga just gravitated backwards. Like, how the fuck did he do that? Everybody, I don't care how thug you was. If you just robbed somebody, you was trying to do the moonwalk. I don't care. You was moonwalking. Really? Niggas. I'm dead ass. Like, cause we always be acting like niggas who rob people ain't dance. Niggas, they got emotions. Oh, God. I know stick up kids, them niggas danced all the time. They danced all day at the party, then robbed everybody at the end. So, yeah. JR, who you got up next to, brother?
I'm gonna go with the person that inspired Michael. I'm gonna say Stevie. I'm gonna say with Stevie, the first thing I'm gonna just say the 70s period with him.
Can we just start off with he's blind? Can we just say he's a fucking
because I was telling her about the topic. And I was like, Ma, I'm gonna say Stevie. She was like, well, say he blind. First of all,
we could just stop right there.
He blind, first of all, and to do all of this, and he's blind, like, that's enough. But I ain't want to say it, but of course I forgot who I'm dealing with. You would say it.
I think you should, nigga. I'll be like, you see all this shit I do when I got fibromyalgia and scoliosis? I don't want to hear no goddamn healthy person with no excuses. Shit. Better start with you, blind nigga. You think if I was deaf and I was making these beats, I wouldn't. That'd probably be the name of my production, Deaf Productions, nigga. I want everybody to know I'm deaf.
I cannot with him. Oh God. But yeah, the 70s period. Ain't nobody have a period like Stevie in the 70s. Nobody. And I know everybody kind of start with like Innovision sometime, but you can even go all the way back to Sound Still Delivered, where he was still working with the Funk Brothers then. You know what I mean? And then after that, it was just like, shit, Where I'm Coming From, Music of the Mind, Talking Book, Innovisions, First Finale, Songs in the Key of Life. Like, who has a run like that? Like, that alone just says how Stevie is one of the GOATs, like, period. And then to go into the 80s and still go higher. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though I give him a lot of fever with the 80s shit, to be honest, after Hotter Than July. But, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, this is when he's on Sesame Street and he becomes global then. You know what I mean? And by then, Stevie he came out in the 60s and he's in the 80s still competing with the young artists. So that just shows how dope he was then. And my last one is
people watching who may not know, Stevie was a kid.
Yeah. That's our little Stevie Wonder.
Back with Vague. Michael was a kid.
Yeah.
We talking about special ed youngest in charge. No, nigga, these niggas was children. These was children.
Right.
You know what I mean? So just the point of like, not only did he last those decades, he grew this industry like from a kid to an adult. You know, so.
Yeah, and then to say that, my last one is to say that when you're with a label head that didn't believe in you, and look what we got. Barry did not believe in Stevie. Stevie wasn't getting no hits from him. He wanted to drop him. He wanted to drop him in like 64. 63. He was like, yo, this kid ain't making me no money. I'm putting all this money into him. I'm not getting a lot of money back. What am I going to do with this kid? And somebody her name is Sylvia Mo, she believed in Stevie. She was like, you got to let him be him. You can't give him a song and be like, sing it. He has to be involved with it. And she gave him Everything Is All Right. And from that moment in 64 to now, that's why we got Stevie. For a record label that you sign you and then don't believe in you. So and then in the 70s, it was like Stevie had to, because it was time for him to renegotiate. I know he was looking at bet and looking at that. Right. Watch it. Right.
You the nigga who said it, nigga. I'm just repeating it.
I meant he was.
You said he was looking at Barry.
And that's why I said, hold up. I was like, hold up, Phil. But I should have knew, because I knew Kill was going to repeat it because he's an asshole like that. So he would. He would. But he's sitting there with Barry, I mean. And he like, I want more money. Like, give me my money. I proved to you that I can do it when you didn't believe in me to begin with. So give me a high royalty rate and I want my freedom. And he was like, I don't want to work with the Front Brothers no more. And we got the 70s Stevie that we got, and 80s and 90s. And Stevie got hits all the way down to currently. Who from the 60s to now, who's doing that? Nobody. So that's why Stevie is definitely the GOAT. One of the GOATs.
Can I say something?
Bro.
JR, you're amazing, man, because you just told a story from 1963 like you was there, bro. You got a hot time machine.
Bro, you don't know this nigga's a time traveler. You don't know this shit? Bro, this nigga ain't real. He's a time traveler. Like, it's like the Twilight Zone.
Blame my mother. Blame her. Blame her. She used to give me reports.
So you mean tell me...
I just need this nigga to go in the future and tell me who I'm supposed to be betting on DraftKings tonight. That's what I need. Fuck the past. I need the future, nigga. I don't need nobody going back in time.
You mean to tell me he is in pictures in 1960? You'll see him.
You will find him. You will.
Remember
with them same glasses on.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna stay right the hell out.
I hate y'all.
But babe, what was you gonna say?
I was gonna add, because I had Stevie down as like a extra for me. But everything that JR said, especially the 70s, that was the first thing I wrote, was the 70s. That 70s run, cleaning up the Grammys every trip, to the point it was like nobody's gonna win but Stevie. Like, how? But one thing I had down also, his writing credits.
I was like, about to ask about
that. I forgot about that. Yup. He wrote for every damn body.
Insane. Crazy.
That man was incredible. So,
you know what? I want to go back to JR's first selection with Marvin. Mm-hmm. Another accomplishment. He gave one of the illest renditions of the stars.
Yes.
Like one of the illest.
Yeah.
The illest. He turned it to an R&B record.
He did.
He did.
The way he
Yeah, did
dried
anybody
that
ever
thing,
bring their
man.
own track like he did? Because I don't
Right.
remember anybody else bringing their own beat to sing that shit.
Yo, Marvin was like, yo, get my dad right, nigga. Get my dad.
Right. Play this.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That nigga said, where's my dad? Bro, who you got up next, bro?
All right, I have the Notorious B.I.G. And the first thing is, you know, he passed. He was 24 years old, and he's had an everlasting impact after dying at that age with just two. You know how people argue like, oh, he only had 2 albums. How do you put him up there? You know what I'm saying? He impacted. It still has an impact now with just those 2 albums. You know what I'm saying? Like, just think about his impact and the things that he changed just with those 2 albums. You know what I'm saying? That's not a negative. That's actually amazing. You know what I'm saying? That's actually amazing. He died so young. And for the second one is, I feel like this could kind of be a opinion, but I think it's more fact than that. He was the first one to balance the commercial and street and you know, intertwine it to where none of it looked forced. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get Give Me the Loot, then you get Juicy. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of it just was just seamless. You know what I'm saying? It looked like he was forcing. He didn't look. He was believable on both aspects, is what I would say. You know what I'm saying? It didn't look forced. You know what I mean? Where you might have another artist that's trying to do this, and you can tell they're trying to get a hit. You know what I'm saying? Or they're trying to be more like, all his stuff was just seemed effortless to me. And the third one was, you know, we hear about these artists like, yeah, he don't write his raps down. He don't write his rap down. Nobody was saying that until we heard about Big. Big was the one. Now everybody know nobody writes now. And I'm like, damn, what's wrong with me? I write. You know what I'm saying? You know, everybody say I don't write now. Big was the first one, and the stories of people just being amazed about how he would do that. And then after you hear that, now everybody don't write. You know what I'm saying? So
here's the thing, bro. A lot of them people needed to write. That's the problem.
Right.
A lot of people needed to write. So
exactly.
It's my Steph Curry. It's my Steph Curry assessment. Everybody in the NBA don't need to be taking half-court three-pointers.
There you go.
Everybody don't need to do it. There's
Just
certain
because
people
you
who have that talent. Exactly. So, that's a dope pick. That's a dope pick, bro. Next up, I got EPMD. For me, they got one of the dopest 4 albums run ever in hip hop. Strictly Business, Unfinished Business, Business as usual, and Business Never Personal. I know whenever, and to me, this is always like shows me how dope an artist is when you look at those 4 albums, and each of us up here may have them in a different order. You know what I mean? To me, that's like the icing on the cake that kind of just shows that they're not just 4 dope albums. Like the same thing that this run that Nas is on. Like you talk about KD 1, 2, and 3 and Magic. We did a show about that, and every single person had a different order on which is their favorite. You know what I mean? Which to me is a testament to how dope the music is. They were a foundational piece of the Hit Squad. You know, one of the dopest hip hop crews ever. It was them. They discovered Redman and Das Effects. You know, 2 of the biggest hip hop groups, in my opinion, Red ever, Das. You know, I may not say ever, but Das was the shit from about 91 to about 97, 98, you know, which is a hell of a run. Going gold in 89. Y'all know me. I'm never one to bring up record sales or anything like that. But when So What You're Saying, when he said 30 days later, the LP went gold, So What You're Saying, I remember being in 9th grade like, yo, what the fuck does that mean? You went gold. You know, my mom was like, oh, that's how many records you sold or whatever like that. So going gold in 89 or 88, that's a feat. You know what I mean? And then to me, hip hop, fashion, and slang. Like, yo, the fisherman hats. I don't know nobody was rocking no fisherman hats before EPMD. Nigga, you wore a fisherman hat when you went fishing, and niggas don't go fishing. So, we niggas is wearing fisherman hats. You know what I mean? And then just with the slang, you know, Swayze, like, you know, these dudes came up with like their own slang, and not to mention, and people may think like this isn't important, These were the first dudes who made saying your real name as your rap name cool. Eric Sermon, Parrish Smith. Now you got Keith Murray. Now you know what I mean? Like it was like, yo, you don't need a rap name. I'm gonna just say my name. You know what I mean? And so to me, that's EPMD and their resume on that. JP, who's another person you got?
I'm not gonna do Mary. I'll say that for
No, you can.
No,
Go ahead.
I'll go later. I'm gonna go with Dr. Dre.
The person who started off this whole discussion.
Right. So, I mean, of course, just, you know, he's not just respected as a hip hop producer, he's respected as a producer, period. You know what I'm saying? Music wise, but that's how high a level he's reached in, you know, our section of hip hop to be respected as a producer overall. That's one of his biggest accomplishments right there. And if it stopped there, that's enough to hang your hat on. Like when you think of West Coast production, most people think Dr. Dre first, right? And the people that he's responsible for that come from his camp, like Snoop and Eminem and 50. I mean, you know, NWA's production and Game and you know Kendrick to some extent and you know Anderson .Paak to some extent, like all from his tree. Like all these superstars on their own came from him. You know what I'm saying? They have some type of legacy towards him. You know what I mean? So that goes without saying. And then probably because he's such respected as a producer, the headphones Beats by Dre does astronomically. Like that alone. The reason why it did so well is because he's so respected as a producer. Y'all understand that, right? Like a lot of people come out with headphones and you know I'm sure they could do all right or whatever, but because we respect him so much sonically, these headphones, they gotta be the, you know what I mean? Like, and then of course, you know, it catches on, it becomes the cool thing and it gets even more popular. So that adds more to his legacy, but so those are my three comments.
That's similar to what Kill said about the SP 1200, right?
Right.
Because when I saw Dr. Dre with the headphones on, I was like, well, shit.
It made sense, right?
I want those. You know?
It just made sense.
And even on the headphone front, he put it to where you can now charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars for headphones and it doesn't look crazy anymore.
Yep.
I mean, them Apple AirPods is $550. You know what I mean? There was a time we $550 for a pair of fucking headphones. Like, you know what I mean? Anything over $100 was like, damn, nigga, you really like music, like,
right?
You know,
you made them like Jordans. You made them like Jordans.
Exactly. Like it's like, and now $300 doesn't sound crazy to buy a pair of headphones. It doesn't.
Hey, that shit sound crazy to me. Fuck that. I'm paying those $300 for no headphones. Y'all wow.
I got them Apple AirPod Maxes.
Yeah, they I love them.
They good. I was they all good.
I didn't pay retail for mine though. I can't do $550 for headphones. I didn't pay retail.
Well, what I did was I couldn't in my heart pay that much, but I wound up I got somebody looked out and then I afterpaid it. So I paid $100 something and then I paid it off. You know what I'm saying? I paid about $400 for them. You know what I'm saying? So.
Well, JR, I'll say this, you know, because everybody's obviously music fans.
Yeah.
I don't have those headphones. I have the Sony M4s. But when you pay for headphones like that, and you're a music fan, and you put your shit on, you're happy with your purchase,
right?
Oh, okay.
You're happy,
okay.
Because you're like,
spend more than like $100 for some headphones.
And you know, the other thing I think, JP, about the Dre headphones is that he made headphones become fashionable.
That's
like,
right.
I remember being in the airport, and I swear to you, everybody had on Beats by Dre.
And around their neck.
Little kids did. I was like, oh, fuck that. As soon as I fly back in, I'm getting me a pair, because it's almost like wearing a pair of sneakers now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the same way that, like you said, with Jordans are like a status symbol. If you see somebody rocking the AirPod Pros, it's like, damn, you spent $550. You know, you spent this for your outfit. You know what I mean? Like on your headphones, like it's part of your outfit now. Like it's literally headphones are fashionable. You know what I mean? So I think that's a huge piece too with Dre too. The only thing I'll say about Dre is I don't even want to go down that street. Wait, you say that. It's a good thing because all day to day has just been, Dre didn't do this, Dre didn't do that. And I'm like, look, somebody had to do DOC's first album. You know what I mean? Daz wasn't around, Warren G wasn't around, Scott Storch wasn't around. Like, who the fuck produced DOC's album? Who did NWA's first album then? You know what I mean? Like, this man is a producer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was going back and forth. He's like, man, I done ran a lot of people saying they did this for Dre. I was like, yo, you know what? There's a new word that just got invented called a lie. Like, and I don't know if y'all know this, but niggas lie. Like, they just have a tendency to do this shit called lying. So, yeah, you could have been in the studio and told Dre to change the snare, and now you're like, no, I produced nothing but a G thing, or Daz, when people like Daz brought the records. Okay, well, guess what? If I go to the store and I buy all the shit Tanya told me to buy, but she makes Thanksgiving dinner, who's everybody thinking at the end of the night? They ain't thanking me for bringing the samples. For bringing the food. They thanking her.
Damn, that was an ill ass analogy, though.
No, I'm just saying, but who are you thanking? You ain't thanking the person who went to the store.
Yeah.
I know people who are diehard, like really super duper cooks. They don't even want you to shop for them. Yeah. They're like, nope, I'm gonna go get my own onions. You be picking the wrong onions. Like dead ass. Like they want to shop for themselves. So again, I've always said it, Show Me Today was all about Yella. Oh, Yella did this, Yella did that. Well, what did Yella do when NWA broke up 30 years ago? I ain't hear
always say that, Kill. If you can do it once, then do it again and do it again.
If somebody said Primo ain't make Daily Operation, I did, and then that nigga makes Hard to Earn, nobody's listening to shit that person said. I'm not saying Corrupt don't have dope beats. I ain't saying Warren G don't have dope beats. I've never heard anything from Corrupt or Warren G or DJ Yella on the same level as The Chronic, Doggy Style, Niggas for Life, Straight Outta Compton. No one can do it better.
And you mean Daz?
Daz. Who would I say? Corrupt. I'm sorry, Daz. Right. So again, I'm not saying that they're not dope. I'm not saying that. Right. But if you made stuff on that level, then you should be able to continue to make stuff on that level. Right. You know what I mean? So again, something just ain't right. But now, Dre ain't do this, Dre ain't do that, Dre ain't a real producer. Like, y'all gotta calm that shit down. Cause even just from DOC to Doggy Style, that's enough right there.
That's enough.
That's enough. We ain't even gotta go 2001 and anything else after Doggy Style. He solidified right there for that for me. So I feel you on that. Yeah. Vay, who you got, bro?
One last point on what you're saying with Dre that I think people need to understand. Collaborations between producers is part of the industry, always been. But to your point, Dre already had a resume before he, worked with anyone on beats. And the same thing with Kanye, right? Like there are beats we know he made that are crazy. And honestly, I used to get excited when I heard him and RZA were working on a beat together. I'm like, damn, what's that gonna sound like? Right. You know what I mean? Like, so to me, it's not like, nah, do it yourself, because these dudes have contracts and deals, and they're in the business of making music primarily for their passion, but also for money, profit. So it's just a part of the game. And really, if you love what was produced, it doesn't matter if, somebody brought the samples and Dre put it together, or someone had an idea and Dre molded it into the hit we know. It's par for the course, part of the game. So it's whatever. I'm going hip hop on mines. I got Dilla. I feel shout out to Apartment 5B or the Writers Bench. I think that's when it was. But I knew of Dilla, right? I knew of Dilla. I knew what he made, but I didn't really know. And I didn't really know the techniques he was using to separate him from any other producer that was making what it sounded like to me, boom bap beats, right? But then when I learned his technique before the Dilla book, which is a great book that really broke down what he was doing for lanes and for the people who can confirm it. But technique is the first thing I have for him. Just for this man to make something that we can consider offbeat to be on beat. That's like some human changing shit.
Yeah.
Changing the way we hear music, the way we hear rhythm. And I remember when I first heard some of his beats, what was my first reaction? Damn, that shit sound like off. Like that drum, why is it hitting there? It's supposed to be like boom, boom. But I didn't realize what he was doing there. And then when it's explained to you and you can hear it, then it's like, well, that's crazy. It's even crazier when you're a hip hop producer, and I don't know if people feel like this today, but there was a time when you can influence musicians, especially musicians who are classically trained, right? Whether it's piano, whatever it may be, to say, yo, he's doing something different. That's not just some hip hop shit, that's some jazz shit. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. For him to do stuff like that.
Exactly.
So to have that kind of impact, but you're a hip hop producer, there are a lot of producers who we named who are not doing that, right? They still on the 1 and the 2. Dilla was like, nope, we do 1, 2, 3, 2.5, 4. Then we're gonna chop all them shits and make another beat. And you're like, I don't know what this nigga did. Like he made 4 beats into 1 beat, and I don't know, but it sounds hot. So definitely technique, versatility. Again, there were songs I knew he did, right? I knew about the Uma stuff because I used to read the credits back then. But I assumed, well, that's a Tribe Called Quest. It's not this. It sounds like a Tribe Called Quest. How could it be this guy? The fact that he can have beats that sound like Dilla beats, beats that sound like RZA beats, beats that sound like Q-Tip beats, down to a T where you had to convince me. Like, wait a minute, RZA didn't make that beat on Cuban Link 2? It's like, no, Dilla made that. I'm like,
stuff.
Damn, he's going in too.
Well, I'll tag off on because of course Dilla's on mine. Piggyback on what Veg was saying, the influence on jazz musicians. If people don't know, my mother's a jazz musician. Let me explain something to you about jazz musicians. They're the most bougiest motherfuckers in the world. These people
That's true. That's
these
really
people
true.
because they're classically trained. Like, you know what I mean? Like they going to school for this. Like, you have a lot of people who play because they played in the church or they kind of taught themselves.
Right.
Classically trained. And to see jazz, I've been to 3 jazz shows. Kenneth Whalen was one. I can't think of the other one offhand, but I've been to 3 different jazz shows. They all had a Dilla segment where they just played Dilla tracks.
Wow, that's crazy.
Now, of course, it's the younger jazz musicians. It's the Kenneth Whalens the third, and the Robert Glaspers will sing Dilla's
Corey
praises.
Henry,
You know what I mean? But again, it's like Quest will tell you, like, he had to throw away everything how he was trained to drum in a totally different way because of Dilla. My fault, babe. Keep going. I had some Dilla stuff, so I was just tagging in until you got back.
Nah, no problem. But yeah, just the versatility he had with making beats, making production for different people. Me not knowing he did Vibrant Thing, because to me that doesn't sound like a typical Dilla beat. So his technique, his versatility, him having hits that people don't know he produced, just things like that. And lastly, again, impact, right? Robert Glasper does not miss a chance to make a fake Dilla beat. He just doesn't. I wish he would stop. I wish he would stop. Shit was hot at first. I was like, okay. Now I'm like, all right.
Enough.
Yes. Right. But it's the influence, man. Right? You're not just saying, oh, he's dope or this is a dope beat. Now this man got you thinking about how you create, and that's and again, not only other producers but musicians who don't have to go down that route are like, damn, he done sparked my interest to the point where now I want to create something. I want to do something new, So I salute to you, Kill, and all the brothers on Apartment 5B, Writers Bench, the corner. whatever the hell else you're gonna call it next. And I think I've been on all of them. That's why I got this gray hair and shit. All of them. But you know, I mean, just for somebody like me who's a music fan, who, you know, I like Jay Dilla and Slum Village and all that, but pointing out things I didn't notice that made me a bigger fan. So shout outs to you.
No, I appreciate it. My Dilla, offbeat drums, like Veg said. I was in my man Montez's Jeep on my block in Philly, and we heard wordplay on Tribe's Beat Rhymes of Life. And I was just like, yo, why are the drums sounding like that? And I just remember leaving his Jeep, going in my mom's basement, turning on the ASR 10, trying to emulate what I just heard, but I didn't know how to do it. Like, I just was like stuck, like, yo, what the hell is he doing? Same thing like Primo, the minimalist. Primo and Dilla are the only two people who I can play you what they sampled and you not hear because of how they manipulated things. Comm's doing it is Rick James, Give It To Me, baby. No one in their right mind would have ever known that unless Quest would have told us. I don't care about nobody digging Genius book. You lying like a motherfucker. Nobody knew that that's what. And Quest just said, yo, here, take this. Give It To Me, Baby by Rick James. Make something out of that shit. And you make comments doing it. Like, I remember when they sent me comments doing it to 889. We was in the studio like, yo, this nigga Com killing it. Like, and having no idea that that's what Dilla sampled for that. To Vegas' point about the influence, everybody was biting Dilla style. When they sent me the promo for Jill Scott's first album, I was like, yo, Dilla getting that R&B money. Like, that's what's up. So when I got the album, I looked in, I was like, wait a second, Dilla ain't produced none of this shit, A Touch of Jazz. I was like, to this day, I don't give a fuck. And they from the crib, Jazzy Jeff and A Touch of Jazz need to give 10% of their tithes and offerings to Dilla family forever. Because all of that shit, music, flowetry, all that shit out of Touch of Jazz camp is nothing but Dilla. It's soaked with Dilla. It's drenched with Dilla. And what I loved about Dilla too is he was able to switch styles. Because I actually have this mixtape series, I gotta find it or I may do it again, called JD versus J Dilla. Because they're two different people. JD and the Uma made those, what I call them, Howard University Peace People beats. You know, that's when he was always producing for Common and Salib and Most and all them shits. And my knock on that nigga was, well, that nigga can't do nothing for MOP. That nigga can't do nothing for the Wu. That nigga can't do nothing for Ghostface. And I felt like Dilla just said, you know what? All y'all bit that shit. Yo, when I heard Just Sonny, what's that? Just Friends by Music? Again, I'm like, yo, this is all Dilla. Dilla was like, yo, fuck y'all. Keep that shit. I'm going to come out with this donut shit. Because that 10 bricks for Raekwon, nigga, that don't sound, that's Dilla. That ain't JD. Two totally different individuals. And you'd be hard pressed to find a producer who can have a style that influences the world and be like, yo, keep that shit. I'm gonna go over here and do something else and fuck y'all up again. Because then after Donuts dropped, niggas was all trying to make beats like Donuts. So, just some Dilla shit. JR, what you got, good brother?
Damn, y'all went in. My bad. I'm gonna go with Janet.
Okay.
First of all, for her to have her own identity after her whole family and be the baby and to have a career that she had, that's enough right there. Like, her brother is Michael Jackson. Like, come on.
You ain't supposed to get no shine. Like,
right.
Everybody did try. I mean, Reby tried. I mean, she got a hit. Jermaine tried. LaToya did whatever the fuck she tried to do. And then it's just like people tried and they couldn't get, but Janet ended up getting through. And after a while, she started kicking her brother ass for a minute. For real. Like, so I say that her 4-album run, The Control to the Velvet Rope, is legendary for real. You ain't, come on, you want to run like that, yo. Like I said, after a while, her brother was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, my sister is kicking my ass. I need to, yo, Teddy, I need you right now, yo. My sister is wilding right now. You know what I mean? And then for that, and then her influence. You look at everybody, you see her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody after her was influenced by her. So her impact, her influence alone, but the number one thing is she made her own lane for who her family is. and that was very hard because a lot of them couldn't, and she was the one that got through. You know what I mean? So that's why I give it to Janet.
It's also that magic of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Linking
Yes,
with the
God.
right producers.
My
Yeah.
good old friends, yeah.
Linking with the right people. JR, tell me this, because I'm not 100% sure. Was Janet the first R&B person to really bring sexiness to the forefront? Like, you know, Janet on If is like, yo, you're smooth and shiny, feel so good against my lips. I was like, nigga, like, let's go, Janet. Like, you know, she's on stage, she's, you know, fucking giving niggas lap dances on stage. Like, well, R&B people singing about sex the way that Janet was. Like, you knew at a certain point on every Janet album, you're getting a sex song. Post,
Right.
You know,
Right.
Rhythm Nation, we're getting a sex song. Okay?
Right.
Well, let JR answer first.
No, go ahead, because I'm thinking, because I'm trying to think.
I want to say she was, but I think, and I swear I'm not trying to be funny. I swear I'm not
I'm
trying
about to
be
walk off.
disrespectful.
I think you're gonna say.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
I'm about to walk off if you say who I think you're gonna say.
The
No,
only
but
one
I'm
person I
thinking,
can think he's gonna say, and
I'm thinking like, you know, as males, right? And if Janet's being that sexy, I mean, Janet is attractive to us, right? But I don't think we looking at Millie Jackson like that.
that's who I thought you was gonna bring. That's who I
Okay,
thought you was
all
gonna bring,
right.
Millie Jackson.
Okay, all right.
And Millie Jackson was just
Wild John. Millie was.
Right.
I was more talking like in the 80s, like, you know,
Right.
that form of R&B. I want to say
and
Janet
she was
was
doing
the
that.
first.
I mean, she was doing that too. I think Janet was a little bit more mainstream than Millie was, so she had more of an audience to see this. Because Millie is just for us. She was us, and that was it. Like, you know, mainstream don't really know Millie like that, like we do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So when Janet came out, I mean, her focus wasn't sex until the Janet album, to be honest.
Right.
Even though we know, like, you know, funny how time flies, and then we got Someday It's Tonight. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
It's the
oh,
motherfucking
Yeah.
night, man.
oh, okay, all right, Janet, okay. And then once she did the Janet album, she started putting it out there, and by the time it was Velvet Rope, Janet was clearly fucking.
Because the Janet album was when she did the Rolling Stone cover with the dude with her hands on the joints, right?
That's really the Janet album cover, but they cut it.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
just
it
her face. And the
Oh.
label was like, no, we don't want to do that. So she said, all right, I'll give it to Rolling Stone then. And that's what they did. So yeah. So I can agree to that. I think Janet probably was the first one for real, kind of to give it that. I forget that.
Give R&B its sex appeal like that.
Yeah.
All right, no doubt. Bro, who you got it, bro?
I have the Wu-Tang Clan. Number one, they put Staten Island on the map because nobody was talking about Staten Island. You know, I know some of them not even from there, but still, they put Staten Island on the map. You know what I'm saying? That's like the forgotten borough. You know what I mean? I didn't know nothing about it. Didn't know about no artists from there until Wu-Tang came out. You know what I'm saying? They put them on the map. Like I did. Maybe I did. I'm thinking about it. I don't. Not off the top of my head. I can't think of nobody.
That
That I
I
knew.
knew them Force MDs.
Force MDs, yeah, that's it.
These are both from these, yeah.
That's it.
but not hip hop.
Yeah, right. And they introduced a whole new style, not just of their beats and rhymes, but the kung fu influence stuff, the griminess of the beats. What was the words you used? Minimalist? Didn't you use that word? Yeah, they a lot of that. They they had a lot of that. Some of the stuff with the beats was grimy and might not have been mixed the best and all that, but you know that shit was rocking. They put that shit out, and they were one of the people that came out during the time when the West Coast was in control of everything hip hop wise, and they were one of the people that shifted stuff back over to the East Coast, in my opinion. And then multiple classic albums from solo artists as well as group. You got Cuban Link, you got Liquid Swords, you got Iron Man, you got Supreme Clientele, you got the first Wu album, you got the set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From a group of so many people, you know what I'm saying, and to put out classics as a collective, and then be able to have solo artists go out and put out classics, and another one like Method Man become like a star. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're one of a kind. So that's why.
Definitely. Next up, I got Rakim. Changed the way MCs rhyme, whether it's flow, whether it's, you know, even with BPMs. Like, I remember reading about how Marley and Shan was like watching them record My Melody, and they're like, yo, why you rhyming so slow? Why he rhyming like this? You rhyming too long. And My Melody is, you know, hip hop, you know, royalty right there. You know what I mean? So kind of not bridging the gap, but kind of changing the game from the Run DMC style of rhyme, you know, to become much more deeper. One of the first MCs to bring the 5% Nation to hip hop. You know, one of the first times I was seeing things like Seven in the Crescent was in Rakim videos, you know what I mean? And things like that. So definitely doing that. Owns one of the greatest hip hop albums ever in history, debut album with Paid in Full, you know, with damn near almost every song on there being a classic, from Eric B. is President, My Melody, I Know You Got Soul, Move the Crowd, you know, I Ain't No Joke, you know what I mean? Just everything on there that's just classic. And then at the end of the day, just considered by so many people to be the GOAT, just to be the greatest rapper of all time. You know, you may not agree with it, but, you know, I think by many standards, people look at Rakim as, you know, the GOAT MC, the God MC. You know what I'm saying? And then I came across this clip. I thought I still had it. He wrote My Melody like when he was 14. It's this video, like it's like an audio track of him saying My Melody over a different beat, and like he was like 14, 15 years old. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yo, that's crazy, right there. So, you know, I got Rakim for that. JP, who you got up next?
Can I say something about Rakim?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm sorry.
My bad, JP. I coming up when I was younger, he was one of the first people like that. When I can hear the rhymes, I can kind of envision it. You know what I'm saying? Like I can envision what he's talking. Like the song "The Ghetto." Like when you listen to that song and listen what he's like, that shit is like super descriptive, bro. Like you can see that shit when he's talking. Like one of the first people for me, because, you know, coming up when I was really young, the first time I really heard him, he was one of the first people that I was like, damn, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is different. He's not yelling, you know what I'm saying? Because you know the transitions of MCing, you know what I'm saying? What he was doing was different when he came out, you know what I'm saying? It was, you know, Nas is my favorite artist, rapper, right? Like, without him, there is no Nas. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was the first person that was just flowing, you know what I'm saying? And that, yo, the way he describes certain situations, like another one off the Juice soundtrack, Know the Ledge, right?
Oh my God.
Know the Ledge, yeah.
Every verse.
How do you do that? Every verse is kind of like he's spitting and it's kind of going, and it goes with the movie too. Like, it was just crazy. It's just crazy the way he was able to do that. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, he's one of the GOATs. Like, if you hear somebody say he's the GOAT, you're not looking at him crazy. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't agree with it, you ask somebody else, you still, like, you know, I can understand somebody saying that. You feel what I'm saying?
And then I think you just another slept on joint that I always visualize when I listen to it. What's on Your Mind?
Oh yeah.
I visualize literally every step, from talking to shorty to the train, everything. So that's a good point, bro. Very slept on Rakim joint that a lot of people don't talk about enough is Want to Know What's on Your Mind. That was off the house party soundtrack.
Yeah, that's a good one. One.
That joint is it. JP, did you go?
No, not yet.
All right, yeah. What you got?
Timbaland.
So
I mean,
And go JR with that tone of face.
I'm just looking. Go ahead, bro.
Okay, I don't know what that's about, but so the first thing I'll say is, he created a style that was very duplicated when it first came out. I don't know what you want to call it with the build up beat, the triple beat or whatever.
Yeah.
Like after he came out with that, with Aaliyah or whatever, everybody was doing that. Everybody.
It was a very Dilla-ish thing because it was across the genres. R&B was doing it. Gospel was even doing it. Like every genre of black music was doing the Timbaland drums.
Like he set a precedent. Like so many records from after he came out with that was just emulating that style. That was one of the biggest things. He's done. He's worked with some of the greats like Missy and Aaliyah. But he's partly responsible for the success of Justin Timberlake's solo career.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, the Neptunes did the lion's share of the first album. Tim did a couple joints, but then he did the second joint and the third.
Like 2020. To me, those are two back-to-back 5 mic albums.
Yeah, it's like yo. I mean, Sexy Back was an incredible record. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just. I mean. Tim was able to he was able to successfully do hardcore hip hop joints, R&B joints, pop records flawlessly. Like, and one thing I give Tim, back when he first came out and everybody started copying his style, he always seemed like the futuristic type of producer, like what music was turning into. And now people so respect him and they still go to him for stuff, and he's always remained current and in line with new producers, and they go to him because he still makes that, like, he's very in tune with the music, and he's still like a go-to person, even for being so long in his game where some people don't go to other producers anymore, like, that style he's always remained to stay consistent and current with the time, but still himself though. In a way. So that's those are my things for Timbaland.
I think the thing you said about the flawlessness through R&B and hip hop. In fact, I got a new episode of Daddy Daughter Digging with Nay because she asked me about Timbaland. So I was like, "Oh, let's hit record," And it was just so funny because it was just like, "Oh, he did that. Oh, I didn't know he did that." Like it was just this constant, like, "Oh, he did that. He did that." Like, you know what I mean? And like you said, JP, to be able to go from So Anxious for Genuine, which is an incredible slow jam, incredible. To just then shift over to Dirt Off Your Shoulders for Jay. Or then to shoot back over, what was that joint with Missy and Big Boy? All in My Grill, which was just incredible. Like the bounce back, like you said, like the back and forth, there's no let off.
And all
like there's no let off.
About that joint. All in My Grill.
You know what I mean? Yeah, oh my God. With Big Boy killing that, I mean.
One of my favorite beats by Timbaland was when he sampled Stevie Wonder for Genuine.
For Genuine, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, Timbaland, for me at least as a producer, is right there with Dilla. To me, when what I called him fucked up, like you fucked up my head. Like same way I said, I was in my man Montana, I was in my man Osae's basement. We making beats. And One in a Million video came on, and it was like time just stood still.
Right.
And we was all like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Like
it was nothing that you heard. It was nothing that you heard before.
Yeah. And it was just that's frozen in time. Like, yo, what the fuck is he doing? Like, just like you doing. Like, why does the drum sound like that? Why does the drum sound like that?
Right.
And
he was known for sampling wild, different stuff.
Yeah.
Like weird stuff. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, nigga, you got a baby crying and fucking argued at somebody, like, out of nowhere. He always had some crickets in the background.
I was about to say he used like a chicken in one of Missy beats. Like, it was nuts. Like,
he always stayed with the Isley Brothers, Summer Breeze, that dun 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 dun.
Always.
Like, he always uses that.
Always.
But I mean, it's just like you said, the back and forth from, one of the most slept on albums he produced, Player. Champion, you know what I mean? Like you just, I made this Best of Timbaland for Nate. It's literally like a 3-hour mix CD, and it just keeps going back and forth from slow to fast to R&B to hip hop to, just being all over the place. And like I remember when I heard Promiscuous, I was like, the fuck, like these 80 Simps, like. So again, it's like
Right.
Similar to Dilla. Oh, y'all want that double drum pattern? Keep that shit. I'm gonna come over here and do this synth shit over here. I'm gonna come do something totally different. You know, hate Omarion, but Icebox was my shit. Like we could just sit here for hours and just go on about.
That's
Timbaland.
true.
Who see to you, Brandy? Crazy. Like,
Yeah.
Like it's just he's maintained his skill level and just like throughout the years, and people still go to him because he's still that nice, and you can get a hit from Tim.
He one of them people. He one of them people that made me be like, yo, what the fuck? Like y'all remember that song they had, Up Jumps the Boogie? You remember that song?
Yeah.
That beat and how they was flowing to it, I was like, what is like what the fuck is going on, bro? But that shit he just be ahead of that shit, man. Like nobody was doing that shit, and he just do that, and that shit be fire. You know what I'm saying?
Two things I'll say about Timbo and I'll leave it. One, it's very hard for somebody. I don't even say his name. Aaliyah was with Candyman, right? Who was just the shit. Like, you know, AJ Number the Number, incredible album. I love that album.
Yeah.
And you're like, yo, you're leaving Candyman. That's like Janet leaving Terry and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like to get with Timbaland and Missy, who were relatively nobodies.
Right.
Yeah.
And to then give Aaliyah what many could say is even better than AJ Number the Number.
It
with
is.
One in a Million album, along with, you know, all the other joints that he did for the Romeo Must Die soundtrack. It's such a slept-on, Timbaland produced album. If nobody out there has ever listened to Romeo Must Die, check out the Romeo Must Die soundtrack. There's bangers on there from Tim. But for him to be able to do that, and then two, when Kanye went to Timbaland to do his drums for Powers, very good look for Timbaland. Never looked at Kanye the same after that, I must say. Because to me, as a producer, you do your own goddamn drums. You just do that shit, and you keep working on them till they sound right. I'm gonna actually go over the line here. This is how bad that shit was to me. To me, do I want to go over the line? Who gives a fuck? That's like you can't please your woman, you let another nigga fuck her. Like, yo, you go do that to him over there. I'm just being dead ass. Like, I'm never gonna, if I can't do my own drums, there's no fucking way I'm going to another nigga's house and saying, please, for me in my song. That's never gonna happen. Like that's right up there with like, I'm gonna win women's fucking I'm gonna win the gold in women's gymnastics before I go to another nigga's house saying, please do my drums for me. No, nigga. Me and JP, we from an era where you keep doing them drums till them shit sound right. JP, no, Roots will come to my crib and be like, yo, Kill, your drums are whack, man. And I just stay at it. I just keep going. You keep trying. You know, I never, nothing in my soul ever said, well, Roots, can you do them for me? Can you do my... Like, who the fuck is even thinking that? If Roots would have looked at me like, nigga, I ain't fucking doing your drums. Fucking get better at that shit. That's like asking you, a rapper, like if Vegas can't get a line right, yo, Rel, write my rap for me. Like, there's no way you gonna fucking do that shit. But neither here nor there. Veg, who do you have up next?
Tupac. I think it's another thing with the, like what I said with the Michael Jackson thing. You know, people remember him for one or two things, right? It's either, you know, the positive songs, Keep Your Head Up, and that's it, or they just remember him, you know, slept with Faith Evans or some dumb shit. But in a lot of ways, Tupac, at a young age, similar to what Rel was talking about with Biggie, accomplished a lot, and a lot that you see today as being commonplace, right? So, for example, obviously music success. Tupac was relatively unknown, you know, a roadie for Digital Underground. He does one verse. They give him one piece of shine on one song. And every time we talk about Tupac, we remember, yo, when he had the African shit on and
right.
He just, that means you're a star because there's something about you that's standing out, right? It's the
if I'm not mistaken, that was on that soundtrack, right? That same song wasn't on the album. It was like on the soundtrack or something.
Yes.
For you to stand out on a soundtrack song that's not even on the album, and that's what you're looking for, says a lot too.
Right. And you know, in a lot of ways, you know, you see his success across his different albums and how it would rise. And Death Row was already big, but somehow Tupac made it bigger, all within 1 year. The other thing, music related, speaking of that 1 year, which was 1996, dropped 2 albums the same year, both of them multi-platinum, and one is a double album, right? Which wasn't that common back then. And a lot of people who, over the course of time in hip-hop, 50 years of hip-hop soon, everybody wasn't successful at doing something like that. But Tupac, for the most part, All Eyes on Me was a good album. So I look at that success, and everything he accomplished in '96, fresh out of jail, also, and hitting the, you hear the stories, and they like, he came to the West Coast, came straight to the studio, and like, I forget who it was who said it. I don't know if it was RBX or somebody I watched recently, but they was like, you take a weekend, and Tupac didn't have one album. He already had like 2 or 3 fresh out of prison and hits. You know what I'm saying? Some of the albums we talk about, he just recorded them. So obviously, music success, and the dropping 2 platinum albums in the same year. Acting. A lot of rappers, we kind of expect it now, right? A lot of rappers went down that lane, but Tupac was a great actor. You know what I mean? Like, sure, there's juice, but again, that's that nostalgia where people just say Bishop as if that was the only thing he did. And if you know great acting, even a movie like Poetic Justice, which is not winning no Oscars, I mean, look at Tupac's performance. He's not Bishop in it, right? He's a totally different person, above the rim. He's believable as that guy, but it's not like you're looking at Bishop 2.0. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's played an addict, all these different things, and even looking at what was on the table for him as an actor. Because I said it before, and I'll never forget, this was after his death, but to see George Lucas say he wanted Tupac to play the Mace Windu role, which was Sam Jackson's role in Star Wars. George Lucas wants Tupac to be in a Star Wars movie.
Damn, I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And I'm not trying to hate. I know people watch BET all the time. You can have your fried chicken and watermelon, niggas.
Wow.
But and let's just keep it 100.
And this nigga don't even got a hood on tonight, bro. And he don't even
At all.
Yeah, man.
I ain't got every season,
mellow tonight.
every season is close. But the point is the fact that imagine Tupac in the Baby Boy role, because that's who it was for.
Right.
That's a different movie. Like that is a totally different movie if it's Tupac, and that takes nothing away from Tyrese and all the classic moments in that movie. But that was supposed to be Tupac. So I just look at his acting chops, his music success, his impact. It doesn't matter if it's West Coast, East Coast, lyrical, storytelling, conscious. I mean, you could even say battle rap, because he wasn't like the greatest spitter of all time. But I mean, shit, when I heard Hit 'Em Up, I was like, God damn, like Tupac going in. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where when you look at Tupac's resume and really only break it down to 3 things, he did a lot, especially with that acting hip hop thing, that set the tone for a lot of other rappers like a DMX or a Common or whatever to try to go that same route, as him. But he was great at it all. So,
yeah. And then to do it all, how old was he when he died?
26.
26.
26?
Yeah. To be able to do all that at that time, it's crazy. People watching, if you've never seen it, Gridlock and Gang Related are actually my 2 favorite Pac movies. So if people out there watch them 2 movies. I actually, those are my 2 favorite Pac movies right there. JR, what you got up next?
I'm gonna take it back to Motown, and I'm gonna do Holla Doja Holla.
Of course you are. 1964.
Of course. When you think about Motown, you think of them. You're one of the ones that think of them as the producer team. Like, you think of them. So that alone, when you say Motown, it's like, oh, maybe the Supremes joint, but who did it? Think of the Four Tops joint, who did it?
But see, JR, I'm gonna be one of the people who say I didn't know. Like no, and I'm not saying that in a bad way of saying that on their resume. I just don't think a lot of people do know, which is why I love having you on, because it's to school us, but also school other people watching. Because again, I didn't know growing up. I didn't know who produced what. Then I saw the Funk Brothers documentary, and I just assumed they were the producers. So I didn't even know that, like, you know, Holland Dozier. So they were the ones who gave the big hits, the monster hits to everybody.
Yeah, they wrote for everybody, but everybody kind of puts them with the Supremes because they were the ultimate. That all their hits is from them. You know what I mean? And then all the Four Tops hits is from them. Okay. You know, what Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, they started with them first before Barry said, no, y'all gonna go to the Supremes. You know what I mean? So that, and then Kill, the one thing you always say, people always say, if you get thrown to the side, try to do it again, right? Like you said with Dr. Dre and all that, right? People say he did this and they did this, and it's like, all right, well, then do it again. Well, they did, because in '67, they left Motown because Barry wasn't paying them. They wasn't getting no money. So they created their own label, which is Hot Wax, and they couldn't even use their name. So they went under Eddie the White. They had to go Eddie the Wayne, because Holland, they went in court with Barry and he owned that name. So they couldn't even use that as producers. So they went under Eddie the Wayne, and then they created, like, Give Me Just a Little More Time with Chairman of the Board, Frida Payne, Band of Gold, Honeycomb with Warn Ads, and, all that. So it's like, okay, we leave you, we can do it again. But then when you think of Motown after '67, what do you think about? Really nothing, because you start going into the '70s with Marvin, Stevie, all that. Because after '67, it was kind of over for them, because it was just like, all right, the landscape of music was changing. Malcolm X died, Martin Luther King died. It was all about Black Power. Nobody really wanted to deal with that baby love and all that kind of stuff. So once that changed, it was just like, all right, we're going to create our own label. They realized how hard it was, but they ended up getting hits after it. That just showed the greatness of who they are. And then the influence. When Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, Gamble and Huff, everybody after them talked about them. They said, we want what they had. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to Holland, George Holland, their impact, their influence, Motown, all of that. And it's like, that's why they number one in my book as songwriting team and all that, because they left a big label, created their own, and then had more hits after them. So, yeah.
JR, question. Where do you get the 1.21 gigawatts you need for the flux capacitor to go back in time, back and forth? Is it an electrical storm like Doc and Marty were trying to do? Where exactly do you get the gigawatts to constantly go back and forth? I'm just trying to figure it out, because I really want to go into the future, because I could have just won.
I can't go in no future. I just read. I read. My mom was a big head, and she was just like, yo, she's a music head, so she used to read a lot of autobiographies when I was a kid. So I would ask her questions, and she would be like, just stop asking me questions, read. Figure it out on your own. So I would read a lot of these, and then she would ask me to, she'd give me reports to do. What did you learn from it? What did you see from it? She actually quizzed me on it. So that's why it's like, with me, it's just, that was my life. So,
okay, so you're not going to tell me where you get the 1.2?
No.
Okay, cool.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I appreciate it. What's up, Vic?
I think JR is the only motherfucker who could sit up here like 1963. You're like, damn,
right.
Did they have water back? Like, what did I know that? Like,
yo, go look up.
I gotta do it right.
There's some pictures of JR back there when black folk couldn't use the water fountain. We just gotta find them.
Hell no.
Okay, so you ain't gonna let me know how you get back and forth. Okay, no problem.
No.
Bro, what's up? Who you got, man?
Well, you probably knew this was coming.
It's either Cube or LL.
Ice Cube.
One or the other.
You did that already.
Right. So it's Cube. So yeah, my bad.
Ice Cube. So, one part of a legendary group, which is NWA, did a lot of writing for that group. You know what I'm saying? That's, self-explanatory. They go down in history as one of the more influential groups ever. And then left the group at its height and had one of the best 3 album runs, in my opinion, with an EP and mixed in there with his solo career. When it could have easily went the other way, leaving the group at their height, dissed all of them. You know what I'm saying? It could have went another way, you know what I'm saying? And it did. You know what I mean? He left the group and went on his own, had a nice 3 album run of classics to me, and also went to East Coast producers to produce his music, which I don't know if many people was doing that, like from the West Coast. He went and got the Bomb Squad, like, and was, doing stuff with them. Like, that was kind of, for me, I could be wrong, but that was kind of unprecedented at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think most people had like an in-house producer, or I don't know that a West Coast artist going over and getting East Coast producers to produce their album was like a thing. You know what I'm saying? So
no, it wasn't a thing.
Yeah. So, and then he's also did the acting. Not as good as Pac, but he made a career out of it for himself. You know what I'm saying? So, that's my stance on Cube.
Yeah,
One of my favorites.
Ray, you got anything to add on Cube? I know he's one of your favorites too. So
yeah, he was on my list. And just to add, I also had classic solo and group career, writing credits, right, as a ghostwriter, because certain songs on NWA and probably Yo-Yo also were hits. And I had successful film actor, but also producer. Because he was more than just Craig or Doughboy. He turned it into empire for the most part, producing films, and he is a pretty good actor and a surprisingly good comedic actor. For somebody so serious, for somebody straight out of Compton, crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube, right? I swear I thought it, and this is related, but like me and my brother, when Friday first came out, we saw it because we big comedy fans, and we saw the trailer, and we thinking we gonna see that shit, but when we went to see it, when it came out, it was dead ass empty in there. Like, it was me and my brother and like 3 white dudes up front who was smoking weed, and you would have thought it was packed because the movie was just unexpectedly that funny. But I remember as an Ice Cube fan sitting there like, Ice Cube in comedy, he's like a hero. So I'm like, man, I hope he don't embarrass himself. But
right,
he was hilarious, So I think he doesn't get enough props for that because we also loved him as Doughboy. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Right.
That was my favorite.
You gotta give him a lot of props, and like you always say, Kill, he had an impact when your kids don't even know he used to rap like that. Like,
right?
Yeah. Straight Outta Compton came out. They was like, Mr. Kill, Ice Cube was a gangster rapper, and I'm like, was he? Like, but then again, my kids think of Eddie Murphy and they think of Donkey. That's the first thing that comes up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They saw Eddie Murphy raw, they would lose their mind.
Yeah, you're right. The last people I got up is the Bomb Squad. For me, pioneered the loud noise sample, example, Rebel Without a Pause, just the loud screeching noises or horns. I call it sampling jigsaw pieces. Like, these dudes would take 981 samples just to make one song. You know what I mean? They would pull so much. And I got this book. right here that's breaking down like why you couldn't make Fear of a Black Planet or Paul's Boutique right now, because the sampling clearance would just be so stupid, because they're just sampling way too much stuff. To me, they've given PE one of hip hop's most important. They gave PE one of hip hop's most important groups ever, the Soundscape, for one of the most important hip hop albums, in my opinion, ever. With It Takes a Nation of Millions, whether it's Rebel Without a Pause, Terminator X to the Edge of Panic, Black Still Now with Chaos, Night Living Bassheads, just She Watched Sound Zero, just Show 'Em What You Got, just all of that stuff. And of course, the piggyback on what Rel said about Cube's debut for America's Most Wanted, like Rel was just saying, a West Coast person coming to the East Coast. If I'm not mistaken, I just saw an interview with Cube, and he was saying he didn't come to rock with them. He came to get with somebody else. Ran into Chuck D. Chuck was like, yo, we doing this song with Big Daddy Kane, Burn Hollywood Burn. We want to get on it. Got on it, and then they just was like, yo, if you want, we'll produce your album. And then we got America's Most Wanted. Owner of back-to-back classic albums with Nation and Fear of a Black Planet. And again, just owners of one of the most important albums ever, It Takes a Nation of Millions. So that's what I got for my last joint. JP, what you got for yours?
For the last one, I'm gonna go with Mary J. Blige. For me, Mary's one of my favorite artists. I know she's JR's favorite artist, right? Number one fan. But to me, Mary, one of her biggest accomplishments was making What's the 411. I always say My Life is my favorite album, but What's the 411 is her most important album.
I agree.
Because it was the first time, we had remixes, but it was the first time an entire album was dedicated to hip hop and R&B, the hard beats and the melodies. That was the first, and it changed music after that. Like I said, there were remixes and stuff like that. You heard some hip hop beats and things like that, but nobody had an album coming out sounding like that. It was so different. You know what I'm saying? And that set her trajectory from here on out. Everybody called her the queen of, that was another thing, calling her the queen of hip hop soul, basically for that format. And with that second album, she even grew even more. Like, it wasn't just the hip hop beats like the first album, but it was more grown. They still sampled a lot, but it was like samples that you kind of knew, and they made the sample game a little bit more elegant. Like, My Life was a little bit more elegant, where What's the 411 was a little bit more raw. So it showed her growth. I think another thing, the remix, I don't know how often people were coming out with remix albums. Like, the What's the 411 remix album was insane, man. Like, she released this album of hits, and then she released a remix album that was crazy on top of that. You know what I'm saying? So I got to give her props for that. And like I said, she just created a whole new genre of music that influenced everybody, and everybody started trying to get into that mold of melting hip hop beats and R&B like that. So, just for that alone, Mary is,
I had Mary on my list. The only two things I had to was 30 plus years in the game,
yes,
still going strong. And when she did Not Gonna Cry, to me, that's what shifted Mary from her being ours to her becoming the world's.
I agree.
Because that Not Gonna Cry had mothers, while we were in college. Right. Like, our mothers who went through the Not Gonna Cry was like, I fuck with Mary. Like, it literally to when I Was Your Love and Your Secretary, trust me, there was some mothers out there with a drink in their hand singing Not Gonna
Brown
Cry.
liquor too, yeah.
All night on repeat. And it was really like, I never forget my boss, who's probably, if I'm 48, he's probably about 58, 59. A couple of years ago, he's like, and this is years ago, but he was like, yeah, my wife wants to go see Mary when we're in Vegas. And I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, I never thought somebody 10 years older than us would be like, they want to go see Mary. But that Not Gonna Cry really put her into, like I said, before that, she was ours. She was just us. Like how Jodeci, my mom ain't gonna see Jodeci, you know what I mean? And Mary was right there with Jodeci. But after that Not Gonna Cry, nope, that she was ours. It was like everybody fucked with her. So JR, did you want to tag on? Because I know Mary is one of yours.
I mean, he said everything. The only thing I would say too is Mary never had to dumb herself down for the mainstream to accept her.
This is true.
At all. Like, it was like every era that she went through, it was like mainstream came to her. Like, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Family Affair, but mainstream loved it.
Right.
It's Dr. Dre did it. It's an R&B record, and everybody loved it. The Just Fine record, it's an R&B record, but they love it. You know what I'm saying? So Mary never dumbed herself down to be like, all right, I can't do this, I can't do this. She stayed who she was her whole trajectory of her career, and that's why when you go to a Mary concert, you have so many different people there, and it's just like you looking, like y'all said, freaking, you never thought the girl that did What's the 411 would be where she is now. Like, you never thought about that. So to see where she, especially after My Life, like you said, Kill, that album was for us. Ain't nobody can really relate to that but us. Like, the samples that they were using, Isaac Hayes and Curtis and all this, there ain't nobody rocking with that. But then she came out with Not Gonna Cry, and it was like, when you got white women singing this song and saying secretary like that, you knew it was like, Mary's no longer ours. You know what I'm saying? And it proved it, because when she did Share My World, it was a #1 pop album. You know what I mean? Mary never had that before that, and then she just kept going. So that's my biggest accomplishment when it comes to Mary. She never dumbed herself down. She kept it consistent. Even now, I'm a little with her. But at the end of the day, she never dumbed herself down. She stayed who she was the whole time and never changed up.
And I'll say this, y'all. This Strength of a Woman, John, I fuck with this album. The one Jasmine Sullivan was writing for her. Yo, think of it, Set Me Free. Yo, I really fuck with this album. So to say you came out in 1991 and in 2017 you dropped the album that I still was fucking with, says a lot about Mary. So I definitely feel you with that, JP. Vay, who you got up for your last one?
Mary J. Blige, man.
The queen, y'all go off, please.
Look, Mary J. Blige is, if Jodeci is my favorite R&B group, mostly from, just saying 90s, Mary J. Blige undoubtedly is my favorite R&B artist ever, because for me at the time when she dropped, even with You Remind Me off the Strictly Business soundtrack, right? I was like, who is that? I love this song. You know what I'm saying? And when I heard her singles, because of the hip hop connection and me at that time, again, Twitter, I wasn't a grown ass man the entire time. I did not have money, right? When I went, I know some of you niggas had every album when it came out. I had to go in there like, I have $10. What am I going to choose? You know what I mean? And Mary J. Blige was the 411 was the first time I spent that money on something R&B, because I was always a fan. But I usually went to the record store to buy hip hop. That's where my money was going. But I was like, nah, I need to buy this because I just loved her voice. I loved how she sang. I loved her passion, and I think that's that was her strength. I think her writing skills, right? Because even now, I've sung My Life forever, but when you hear those lyrics or when you watch the documentary and they just go over them, and I'm like, God damn, Mary was saying some powerful shit because it was sincere. Right. It was sincere, and you could relate to it. You could relate to what she was feeling, even if you weren't feeling it. At some point you did, or you knew someone who felt like that. So I felt like she was incredibly relatable because, again, it's R&B, right? But she's connecting with the dudes on the same level she's connecting with the ladies. And that's difficult to do. Because, dudes, they won't, if a lady's singing about, I think her and Little Kim are masters at that. If you singing about a dude, we won't say it. Like, I ain't singing that shit. Right? Right? But you didn't care. You did not care. be like, she in love, I'm in love, and that's it. And like you said, Kill, her longevity, man, because I'm gonna tell you right now, she be having me like a scumbag on Instagram. Because I'm like, you might see me like Vegas like this. Oh shit, Vegas like everything. Because I'm like, God damn, auntie. Oh shit. Oh, like I know some cats thirsting over Ashanti, but I'll be looking at them Mary pictures like, God damn, am I the only one seeing this? Like, they look great. Like, you know what I'm saying? But again, for her to have a nickname like that, and she personifies that when you see her, right? Don't matter if you really like the music. It's like, that's the queen. You know what I'm saying? Even when I see her on Power,
Right.
the outfits, I'm like, yo, every scene, Mary coming out like, nigga, the hair, the nails, the outfit, the jewelry, the coat, like everything is crazy. And it just, you know, as a fan, you feel proud, right? Like, yeah, like she represented your era, she represented your fandom, your love for her music. So Mary is just one of those where, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't want to see it live because I was like, especially JR, when you was like, damn, Mary, can you sing the song? You said that in one episode. I'm like, yeah, I can't.
Listen. Oh yeah. I was getting sick of the same damn set list too. I was done with it. Like,
right. Well, yeah, man. Again, like all y'all said, I mean, when you think about Mary J. Blige, there's so many accolades and so much she did to set trends in music and how she wrote and what she sang about in a way that was hip, and she still does it to this day. She's one of the greatest of all time, man, and her resume is Trump tight. So
Without question.
Trump. JR, you have anybody left, or was Mary?
Yeah. Because I had Mary on the whatever because I was like, maybe one of y'all was gonna say it, but I have Aretha.
Okay.
I have Aretha.
Okay. Quick question: What year are we going back to in the DeLorean?
the year was
We're gonna go back to 1964 on this.
No, we're going back to 67.
Okay.
All right. So, I mean, Aretha is your favorite, like, period. Like, she has inspired everybody. You know what I mean? Like, after, like, if you hear any person, black, white, whatever, male, female, they're inspired by her. That's how much her impact is. Even with Rolling Stone, with that stupid ass list that they just did, and they named her number one. You know what I'm saying? Which I get. You know what I mean? And she inspired everybody. But I think her accolade is...
What list did Rolling Stone do? They disrespected?
They bullshit. That's what they did. Like, that shit was whack, dog.
Tell us
Like,
how you really feel. What was the list?
Yes, I went off, dog. Like, nah.
Hey, hold on, Kill. Where do you think Michael Jackson should be on that list?
Yeah. Where do you think
What's the list? What's the list?
A top 200 singers.
of all time?
Yes.
Of all time? Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about people who can really sing. We're talking about, like, artists themselves.
No. We're talking about everybody.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, you know how we said Mary can't really sing, but she's
Mary went. I'm gonna put it this way: Mary was number 25, and I don't even agree with that shit. But go ahead.
Okay, so now you got that criteria. Go ahead. Where do you think Michael Jackson?
Yes,
I guess 10 maybe.
Nope.
86.
86. Exactly. They had The Weeknd at 115 and had Donny Hathaway at 126.
Insane.
Well, see, here's the problem.
Wow.
Insane.
Here's the problem.
Insane.
Let me give you. Let me go to church real quick. 5 seconds. 10 seconds of church. 10 seconds of church. Not for them.
Okay.
It's about expectations. When good things happen to me, I know that the devil is going to throw something in my path to try to fuck me up. He's gonna, and I expect it. If I get a raise, I'm like, thank you, God, and my senses are up to something is gonna try to throw me off right now. It's expected. I equate. I was talking to one of my mentees, and I said, bro, you about to win the game. Score is tied. 8 seconds left. You got the rock. You think the defense ain't gonna play you? You think they just gonna let you bring the ball up court and just lay it up? Nigga, they gonna be throwing everything but the bench at your ass. And you just gotta be prepared for that. So that little church moment was to say, I don't expect shit from anybody from Rolling Stone. Because there's probably children doing the damn list. There's probably 25. If you got Weekend before Donny Hathaway, we could just stop right there. And it's not just about the writers, it's also about the editors, because someone should be, and I've said this forever, if you're doing any type of music, hip hop, R&B, whatever, and you don't have somebody who's at least 45 or older on your staff, nigga, you're gonna be some bullshit. Because as soon as the writer would have brought that to me, I would have been like, and try again, nigga. Let's go back. And we gonna keep sending your ass back until you get this shit right. Or I would just hire somebody who fucking actually, God forbid, knows music.
Right.
And that's the problem. We come from an era where the record stores we went to, the people who worked there knew the music. I always tell the story of when I went to Sam Goody in the Gallery in 1996 and I asked for MOP's new album, and the girl said, "Mop? We don't sell mops there." I understood that the game changed.
Oh, what?
And this is 1996. So I knew right then that we are no longer hiring people in record stores based off of your record knowledge. And most of the people who worked in the record stores we shopped at, I'm sure in Queens and Brooklyn and Jersey, were all DJs for the most part. So they knew their shit. So these people who write for Rolling Stones don't know shit. They don't. So again, it's just, I don't look at these lists because I don't expect Rolling Stone, number one, that's not hip hop at all and has never been, to even know to get anything straight. And I really don't expect any Rolling Stone in 2023, where probably the oldest person working there is probably 35, to know any fucking thing. Because if I was fucking, I got somebody pregnant at 15, I can have a kid who's 35 right now. So I don't expect Naomi to be able to fucking work for Vibe magazine right now. Like, I'm not arguing with nobody who could be old enough to be my kid. So it's just the expectation. So the fact that The Weeknd is above Donny Hathaway.
Yo, they had Gladys at 101 and Rihanna at 64. My nigga, I was done with this bullshit. I was fuck Rolling Stone forever for that shit.
But you know the hard part too is, bro, and I'll say this too, because here's the problem, and I don't know how we get away from this. Let's just say Rolling Stone ain't really popping like they used to, right? You know how I get people talking about Rolling Stone?
Real.
I put out some bullshit.
Real.
And at this point in time, I don't even care. The goal isn't about musical integrity anymore. It's about keeping these goddamn bills paid. It's about keeping my staff writers paid. It's about keeping me paid as an editor. So if that means, because guess what? If they put out a list and it was perfect, nobody's talking about it.
Right.
That's true.
If they got that list head on perfect, it'd be like, oh, good job, Rolling Stones, and that would be it. They fuck up this list, then people will be talking about it at least for a week. And I mean, I know a week ain't shit to us because we old, but a week in 2023 is like a year. So again, they may have just been like, you know what? Just make whatever dumbass list you want, put it out there so we can piss everybody off, and everybody's gonna be retweeting it, and everybody's gonna be talking about it, and we gonna be trending, and we gonna, do it like that. Because to me, it's either one of those two things. Either you're dumb as fuck or you did this on purpose.
Right.
That's true.
It's one of those two things.
I think it was done purposely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the latter because they did it with the top 200 greatest hip hop albums of all time.
Oh, that's right.
They had Cardi B in front of a number of classics we already talked about. Like, even Cardi B was like, what the fuck?
She even came out was like, that's bullshit. She was like, no.
Right, exactly. And Kill, unfortunately, they're not all young people.
I just wanted to say that.
Usually it's the old cats who have the idea, say, yo, put out the fucked up list. So
right. Oh, yeah. It's definitely the old one. That's the route they took. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's the young, it's what they say, the prisoners are running the asylum if it was done by the writers, and this wasn't done on purpose.
Right.
That's like the writers took over. If it was done on purpose, it's definitely the old heads was like, yo, niggas ain't checking us for us no more. Like, what could we do? Let's say some old bullshit.
What number was Aaron Neville?
We ain't even going down there. No, we ain't doing that today, man. I know you did, but we ain't going down that no more. There's no more Aaron Neville. I that Aaron Neville shit started so much shit. Like that later that night, I was like, yo, Vague, why is Aaron somebody trending on my everywhere I looked for like the next 2 days, there was Aaron and Neville. And I would like screenshot niggas like, yo, what the fuck, man? Aaron Neville is everywhere in my life right now because of your ass. And I never heard this nigga sing a song. And then Rel's hit me like, yo, you heard the Neville brothers? Like, yo, I'm like, nigga, I ain't know. Neither here nor there. So, the list is bullshit. So, yeah, we can't expect shit from these folks, man. This is not 1995 with the source and vibe. Like, in musical journalism that has no integrity.
I think that's the problem. I think that's the biggest problem, man, because we don't really have that representation when it comes to a magazine, even on a digital side, right? It's kind of spread thin between a number of sites, and we can't really look at one place, whether we agree with the list or not, to say, we care enough to say, oh, we want to debate that list. It's always like, what the fuck kind of list is this? You know what I'm saying? And it's terrible that there's just not that journalism, and a lot of it's in podcast form. But honestly, this is just the age we live in, and Rolling Stone is motherfucking culture vultures. So
they are.
In 2023, I'm trying to challenge folks to start doing the right thing. And what I mean by that is like we, myself included, have been in the habit of retweeting the dumb shit. It's like, oh my God, look at this list, and we retweet it, but then it's like something positive, we don't retweet that. So it's like I'm like challenging folk, like, hey, I get it. I don't want to fuck up your reposting game. Repost what you want, but I'm gonna challenge you for every dumb shit you repost. Can you repost something positive too? Because that's how nothing positive is ever trending. It's always something stupid. Like I know if I see Rolling Stone trending, it's not gonna be for nothing positive. I know if I see shit trending, it's 9 times out of 10 not going to be for that. So, and so we play a part in that too of, yo, Vay, can you believe this dumb shit? Retweet. And then you see it, and then it just keeps going, and it just keeps building up momentum. And we get here, but we don't. JP's new album is out. I retweet that, and it's like crickets. You know what I mean? Like, so we got to get in the habit of retweeting the good shit as much as we do the bad shit. I'm like, don't even retweet the bad shit. Look at the list and just, hey, Rolling Stone got a dumbass list, and that's the tweet. I'm not retweeting the link.
That's what I did.
There's my fault, and that's all it is. I'm not retweeting this dumb shit. Not in 2023 no more. So, keep it moving.
Quick question.
What you got?
Quick question. Who was number one?
Aretha.
Okay.
Which is so strange. Like you got Donnie at 113, but then you come back around and get Aretha right at 1.
And Whitney was right at Whitney was 2.
He was 2.
Yeah. That's kind of shocking though.
That's why, and now, Kill, with you saying this, and because even though I haven't looked at the list, I just saw like people throwing stuff at me. So when I saw the Gladys shit, that's when I went the fuck off. But but when I saw the 1 and 2, I was like Whitney and Aretha. But then Donnie is that way. I said this shit was for clout. And Michael,
I'm just shocked that they got it right at the end, but fucked it up all in between. Here's the thing. I can't even come up with a top 20 list. So whenever people start with these 200 lists, I'm like, yo, after a certain point, you just got to just be grabbing albums in alphabetical order.
Right.
200 is just too many to name. Like, it's like, come on, man. Bro, who you got for your last one, man?
I don't hate it. Yeah, and Vague, kind of touched on everything that I was going to say, but his career longevity is, I don't know, it's unmatched. You know what I'm saying? Like, you were saying your age is when you first heard this. So, like, mine is crazy because when, was it 84?
Yeah, radio came in 84, and then the album dropped in 85. So I can't live without my radio. The 12-inch was 84. The album was 85.
I just started eating like real food, like, you know what
I was just getting off the titty. I just put the titty down when I heard I can't live without my radio.
I was on a sippy cup when that shit.
I mean, yeah, it's real. I mean, and when Love You Better came out, I was in college. And that was, Love You Better was a hit for him late in his career.
Yeah.
Late in his career.
Yeah.
And I was in college. Now I was in college, yeah. So it's like, it's just crazy and how he was able to do that, maintain that type of career. For me, he popularized the hip hop love song. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't, a lot of people do it now. It's not like when you hear it now, it's just not, this is second. Everybody got one on their album. I don't know if he was the first. I could be wrong. I would refer to someone a little older than me that knows. But for me,
if he wasn't the first, he definitely made it big. The only one who I can think about, I'm getting the dates mixed up. Heavy D had "Don't You Know," which is a top 5 hip hop slow jam to me. But I don't remember.
Houdini had One Love, so I don't know when was that. Houdini's One Love.
See, I personally would include One Love as a slow jam because it still was a good tempo. Like when I think
Really?
I Need Love,
I thought you meant love song. Love song. Hip hop love
okay.
song.
See, I'm thinking like I Need Love, where it's like actual ballad type thing.
Okay.
And Heavy had "Don't You Know,"
Right.
that drop, but I don't know what drop.
He didn't even rhyme on that. Right.
Nah, he was just kind of talking.
He's just kind of talking on that one.
Right. And there was, for people watching, there was a time when I was talking about hip hop house on my timeline this week, and then how everybody had a hip hop house song. There was a time where everybody had a hip hop slow jam too on their joint. Sweet Tea had a banger called Sweet Tea had a banger. It Should Have Been Me. That was crazy. Heavy had Don't You Know. Even MC Shan had Left Me Lonely. You know what I mean? Like everybody.
And Big Daddy Kane had The Day Your Mind. Was it Day Your Mind?
The Day Your Mind. Like everybody had this hip hop slow jam. So I think you are right. I think I Need Love is really what catapulted that into something. The same way Girl Out House, you kind of started the whole hip hop house craze too.
I mean, first of all, just think of the name. His name was Ladies Love Cool James.
Yeah.
Like, that was his MC name.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Right.
What are you gonna say, Bang?
LL holds the record for hugging a chick the most in one scene in the video.
Listen.
Remember that? He was spinning her.
Yes.
Spinning her back around. Yo. I was a kid. I was like, what is he doing? That man was
L used to do some wild. L used to do some wild stuff, man. In the video, if you go back and watch, like now, you be like, yo, L was a wild dude, man. Like he was doing.
I'm not going front. L had one of the. I'm always truthful. I'm like what Nas said. I got no game. It's just some bitches understand my story. I never had no game. And one of my favorite lines that we used was L. He said, what was it? You got a man, that's something we won't talk about. He's smart enough to have you, but dumb enough to let you out.
Yeah.
Man, that was my go-to line, man, right there, boy. Man, and you, oh man, Mama said knock you out, man. You talking about a 5 mic classic on every level, man.
And then like Around the Way Girl, that will put you in a good mood. Like something wrong, you like worship the devil or something. Like something wrong with you like that. You know what I'm saying? That song just puts you in a good mood.
Yeah, he got so many hip hop R&B records. Like he got a lot of those, like the Boyz II Men and all that. Then he got the like you said, like Bag said earlier, he got the R&B joint, he got the hardcore joints. Like Eat 'Em Up L is one of my favorites.
Yes. Oh God.
Insane album.
Who's the joint? What was this? Mo D this had Milky and I'm back. Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper
is a top 5 hip hop diss song to me. Like that shit was so hard when that shit came out, man. I remember just thinking like, why does he say Milky in the beginning? Like I got so many random hip hop questions to ask LL. Like, what does Milky have to do with anything? But it sounded fucking good when it came on. So the remix with Loungin' with Total with the Hootie.
Oh yes.
Classic.
That was right after the I Shot You joint, and then he comes with Loungin'. Like, oh.
And look, just to add one, because I meant to say it before, but I kind of moved on. When talking about the battle thing, but LL had like some subliminal battles also with people like Tupac, right? Because Tupac didn't like that I Shot You shit. He thought
he did
talking about him, right? And LL was kind of like, nigga. So, and I was like, okay, Al, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he went in with everybody, and even like, you know, with Jay-Z and all that. So, it's. I mean, again, it's the reason why I call that dude the GOAT, because he checks all boxes, not some, all. Right. You know what I mean, bro?
Yeah.
Damn, Veg, did we become best friends?
Yeah, because you saw Ram was like, y'all better tread lightly, y'all. No man said by L. Like,
not to mention, L is one of the few people who you can say you never seen him without a hat on until that nigga started acting. Like, I think that In Too Deep movie was like the first time you see that nigga head. Like,
that's right.
That nigga found a way to keep a hat on in every picture. Like, that nigga was the Kango. Like, fuck, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that nigga was like, R.I.P. the Kango Kid from UTFO, but it was like, that was, LL was the Kango Kid. Like, yo, this dude rocking the Kango all the times. And then into the Fitted, and then the whole FUBU, you done got FUBU in the Gap commercial, and you.
Yeah, that was crazy.
You know,
that was crazy too. Yeah, that was so crazy.
Like, yo, so I mean, again, for young folk out there, L's in my top 10. I think he's my number 7. Like, and whenever I tell young people that they don't get it, I do your homework in your week. You know what I mean? Do your homework.
My last accomplishment was my favorite about him is never ducked a battle. We was talking about it just like that was my favorite. Like, you know, there's an episode back when me and I Am God was arguing about the cannabis battle, right? And I get hell over that.
Reminded me of my old me and Bezo days. Just
my god.
I'm human, but the fact that he even battled him at that point in his career, and when cannabis was like the hottest thing, you know what I'm saying? He was like, you know what I'm saying? He was on every mixtape. He was like, lyrically, he was like, you don't want to battle this dude. For him to even do, like, he don't duck no smoke. Like, you was talking about the stuff with Pac, he don't duck no smoke from nobody. Like, you talk all that girl song shit if you want, and he's dissing you back. He's going to diss you back. You know what I'm saying? So I always appreciated that about LL. Like, that shit, like him being one of my first favorite rapper coming up, like, that should be making me proud. Like, he ain't no sucker. He don't duck no smoke for nobody.
And remember, he started that battle because Cannabis wasn't dissing him when he said to take the microphone on your arm, but LL was like, "Oh, word, shorty, you want it?" And then he was like, relax.
And look, I heard the phone conversation online where it's a conversation where Cannabis was contemplating dissing him after that, and L was like, "Yo, if you don't, you know, my bad, just let it rock." You know what I'm saying? And he was saying like, "Yo, if you don't come back, then they won't know it's about you or whatever." And that Cannabis was like, "I don't know," and then he just dissed him, and that kind of, I don't know who, maybe Wyclef put the battery in his back to, you know, just go ahead and diss him. You know what I'm saying? But that I heard the phone call where before second round knockout, you know, came out. And the fact that he even battled that dude, I got mad when I was arguing, but it's all love.
Yeah, and I think too, the thing about that battle is I hear different things. Some people say he won, some people say he lost. To me, at that point in your career, that ain't bad. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
if it's like if it's a
a
draw at the end of a fight,
right,
and you an old head dude who's been around for 20 years, rumbling the young bull who everybody is saying next right now, and it's a draw, that ain't a bad, to put on your sleeve or whatever like that. All right, real quick. I know it's been late. Oh, you know what? I forgot one person I want to throw in here too. You had Teddy Riley, JP. The only thing I had him too. The only thing I said, another thing I had on him, been a part of and produced for 2 historic groups in Guy and Blackstreet, and then also gave some of the GOAT R&B artists ever their dopest moments on wax. Keith Sweat, Bobby Brown, etc. For Teddy. The last person I had was D'Angelo. Brought neo soul to the forefront. morphed hip hop into soul music. Example, Shit Damn Motherfucker. I remember being at my man Cool DJ Frank's house. He's like, yo, you gotta hear this song. This R&B nigga got a song called Shit Damn Motherfucker. And I was like, nigga. You know, and I'm like, what's it about? He's like, yo, this man is fucking his girl and he kills them both. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, okay.
That scene, and he played, yo, the way he broke that scene down.
Yeah, I'm like, yo.
Like a murder scene, yo.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, I'm all ears. I'm interested. You know what I mean? You know, this nigga was rocking low in the cruising video. Like, that's the first thing that stood out to me was like, yo, this nigga got an ill low piece on. In the cruising video, the nigga had cornrows. He looked more like an MC than a singer, you know. And this
he was
article,
for the niggas.
Yeah, and this article in XXL explained him. It's by Tanya Pendleton. Like, this is one of my favorite articles ever written. We're talking about great journalism. And she explained him as he's a nigga's nigga. Like, that's how she explained D'Angelo. Yeah. And to me, he has 2 back-to-back classic albums. Actually, 3 for me, because I love Black Messiah too. But with Brown Sugar and Voodoo, Black Messiah, and each album is completely different from the last one. Quick, since Quick started all this, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Quick's resume, you know, would be enough to be mentioned in the same as a Dr. Dre? Like, we just did this whole resume show. We're listening off all these great qualifications everybody has. Bias aside, I know Quick may be somebody's favorite, and I hear people say, oh, I like Quick more than Dre. And to me, like ain't got nothing to do with it. It's just your resume, you know? So, JP, do you think Quick's name should be in the same sentence as Dr. Dre?
I think what Quick was saying, I don't think he would, accomplishments, absolutely not. We can run off so many Dre's and we can't run off as many Quick, but I think it's the thing of like Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Like the talent at the talent position, Aaron Rodgers is that dude, but he doesn't have what Tom Brady has, so Tom Brady is the GOAT. But when we say as a quarterback, specifically throwing that football, when we say Tom Brady is better than Aaron Rodgers, no. Right. So I think it's something like that. As far as talent-wise, Quick is up there with Dre for me, personally. Okay. But as far as resume and accomplishment, it's not even close.
Now tell me this: what's the talent-wise? What's the talent?
Like in terms of song, the production style that resonates with me. You know what I'm saying? Like you can have favorite artists that are not popular. You know what I'm saying? That's so true. I think Quick, like I know, you know, I like a lot of Quick's production. You know, ever since the beginning. And I've always thought talent-wise, but it's more than talent that makes you a big producer. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dre's resume is insane. So many superstars. How many superstars are under Quick? You know what I'm saying? I mean, think about it.
And that's something that I said too. I said it may be for Quick, and somebody had told me, he was like, well, Quick didn't want to work with a lot of artists. He didn't want to give his sound out to a lot of artists. And I said, I respect that, but that may be one of the things that holds you back. Right. When it comes to these conversations. Like, I've had people say, yo, Easy Mo B is right there with Primo. And I'm like, no, he's not. And I love Mo B. But, nigga, he's not right there with Primo. Like, I love Warning. I love fucking, JP, they from Queens. Freaky Ty, Lost Boys. I love what he's done. I love Flavor in Your Ear. But he is not right there with Premier. You know what I mean? Right, and it may be, and I've said this numerous times, Easy Mo B, the producers we grew up loving, they all came from groups, or they were their own MCs. So we knew what Premier looked like, because every time it was time for a Gangstar album, he was on Rap City. He was on your MTV Raps. Right. A lot of people to this day don't know what Easy Mo B even looks like.
That's a fact.
They don't.
You know what I mean? Because all he was doing, he was one of the few people, even though he had that group, nobody really picked up on the group. I think Rapping Forte or something. Rapping is fundamental. But nobody really, he was one of the few producers in the 90s who just produced. You know what I mean? He wasn't a Large Professor who was in a group. He wasn't a Dilla who was in Slum Village. He wasn't a Pete Rock who was with CL Smooth and things like that. So I feel you. What about you, Babe? Is Quick in the same category as Dre?
No, not in the way most people think. I think he's not, like, when you're comparing the two as far as accolades and production and notoriety, he's not. But in a lot of ways, he is in a different category as far as the West Coast sound in the early 90s, because we like to say it was only Dre, but it's not, because we know the West Coast had that funk influence with a lot of their production. Quick just did a different version of that, you know what I mean? And it had more of a party feel to it. and he produced for Tupac and got hits. Like, so he got hits with people.
He got hits.
You know, it's just that Dre kind of gets like this Quincy Jones maestro type thing, like we said with the Beats headphones, right? Like if you see Dr. Dre's on it, you already thinking it's probably the greatest shit ever. You know what I'm saying? And with Quick, he's, for some, he may be an acquired taste, right? You know, you may not like his production because it doesn't feel like hip hop, but it's unique and it's still hip hop. It's just more has more of a party groove to it that's usually funk based. So I think when Quick said it, I think he was talking about like pioneers.
Okay.
He should be shoulder to shoulder with Dre when it comes to West Coast hip hop as far as the early days. But when you talking about resume, no, man, like no, not in a longevity, right? Look at them, some of them beats he was doing for Eminem. It was like, those don't sound like the beats he did for such and such and such and such. So for him to still do what he does, you know, I don't think Quick had that kind of impact to compare himself to Dre. So.
All right. What about you, JR?
I don't really know him like that, but he gets a strikeout for what he did with my worst Tony song ever. So I'm good on him.
You don't like the joint?
Hell no, that shit is whack. No.
Yo, that's crazy because I was never the biggest DJ Quick fan back in the day. I've listened to his stuff now and I like him more now. But I love that Tony song, which was shocking to me because I didn't really fuck with Quick like that. But JR's Tone of Face, we'll keep it.
Nah, I don't like that song. So yeah,
Tone of Face with JR. He ain't even got to say shit. Bro, what about you?
I think two things can be true, and you know, he was influential. He may not get the recognition that he deserves while not being on the same level as Dr. Dre. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's. I don't know where his mind was at with this when he made this statement, but it's like, you know, accomplishments and impact, he doesn't have it with Dre. He might feel he's as talented, but we all know, like, I know some people that's talented in the hood that's better than some of the niggas in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you gotta, what are you doing with it? You know what I'm saying? He chose not to work with certain artists and all that. That's your choice, but that's going to reflect on your legacy as well. Like, you got to eat that. You know what I'm saying? And I think two things could be true. I think he's a West Coast legend, but that don't mean he got to be on the same level as Dr. Dre, because I just don't think that he's on that level. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it. It's not a diss to him at all. It's just reality. Like, you dope. You might not get the recognition that you probably deserve, but that doesn't mean you're on the same level as Dr. Dre. You know what I'm saying? Like, you shooting for the goddamn star. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, on the West Coast, like, where else you going? That's you know what I'm saying? You feel what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know. I don't think so.
I just felt like Dre is one of the people who, like, I ain't really started watching ball till like 88, but I knew who Magic was. I knew who Bird was. You know what I mean? I knew who Dr. J was. You know what I mean? I didn't start watching college ball till 97, but I knew who the Fab Five was. I knew who Christian Laettner was. I knew who Allen Iverson was. And I feel like that's Dre. Like, even if you don't fuck with hip hop, you know nothing but G-Thing. You know
right.
You know all of this. You know what I mean? Like, you just know it. Like, even if you don't watch ball right now, you know LeBron. You know. And I feel like with Quick, unless you know Quick stuff, I can't tell you a name of one Quick song right now.
I can't either.
And I mean, I know I'm not the biggest Quick fan, but I've been loving hip hop for fucking 38 years. So nothing he has done has ever resonated to me, even though I'm not a fan. Like, even if you didn't fuck with Dre, you know these songs. You know what I mean? So even if like JP was, I'm like, yo, deep cover, and JP says, get a piece. I'd be like, get a piece. Like, I don't even know what the fuck that song is. Like, you could literally name 20 DJ Quick songs and I wouldn't even know what they name. You know what I mean? What's up, man?
I think one thing that I don't know if we mentioned it, but Dre is more recognizable as a rapper as well. you know, and that's what he has over Quick. Because to me, like as a person who's not the biggest DJ Quick fan, and probably most of my respect comes from his production more than it does him as a rapper. You know what I'm saying? So, and
it's funny because I actually forgot he was a rapper, because every time I hear people talk about DJ Quick, it's the production. So me not being a fan, I kind of forgot, oh shit, he was a rapper. Like,
he was introduced as a rapper, born and raised in Compton. You know what I'm saying? And he even had battles with MC8, right?
MC8.
But to me, like you said, most of his impact is on his production, but sometimes you don't even know if he did it. And he has influenced people, because I like Daz's production. I think a lot of people sleep on the stuff that he has done that was big. I think he did Doggy Dog World, but when you listen to Doggy Dog World, that can sound like a Quick influence type beat. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not super boom bap. Because Drake have some boom bap shit. You know what I'm saying? West Coast shit. But Daz also has a kind of swing party funk type thing. So he deserves his props. But
and again, this is no knock on, for people why this is no knock on DJ Quick. I use the example, I've been in the nonprofit world for 22 years. I'm great at my job. If there was an executive director position, I'd put my name in the ring, but I don't have what it takes to be an executive director. I've never done it before. You know, I'm very great at my job. So again, it's not a knock on Quick. You know, it's not a knock. When I say these things, it's not a knock on Daz or Warren G or anything. But again, I just feel like there's levels to this shit. You know what I mean? So for Easy Mo to be in the same place as Primo, I'm like, no, that's no knock on Easy Mo B. This nigga probably owns my favorite snare ever in Warning. Like, I remember when I first started making beats, I was like, I need my snare to sound like that snare. Like, so again, he has some great songs. So it's no knock. I don't want anybody out there, Evon Rayo, you on your West Coast bot. No, it's none of that. It's none of that. But that's it. But JP, tell me again, where can they get the new project out? What's going on with it?
The new EP is called Flourish. You can get it at JPaz Music, jpazmusic.bandcamp.com, and it should be up on the streaming services shortly.
All right, no doubt. JR, R&B guru, R&B reps. What's going on with y'all in the new year, man?
We back with season 4. Our episode is out now because the episode will already be out. We did Stevie filming this first finale. We did a dope episode with it. We got some good things coming up for the season that we already recorded. Can't wait for that to come out. Junior's World of Soul still doing current R&B bangers, doing Flashback Fridays. Thanks to my brother Kill for giving me ideas all the time. And
I'll be bugging JR. I'll call JR.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, Naomi asked me a question. I was like, I don't know. Let's call JR and tell him to do it.
Yes. So you give me ideas for the Flashback Friday video, the one that's gonna be out. I did my top 7 underrated R&B remixes, which I thought was dope. So just
talk about that Eddie Kendrick, Ralph Tresvant show you got. Not Eddie Kendrick, David Ruffin.
Represent R&B the right way, of course. So it's JR's World of Soul, the R&B reps on Instagram and Twitter. Same thing.
No, I said tell him about the Ralph Tresvant, David Ruffin show that you got.
Oh yes. So that was a big one for me, for real. Kill called me, was like, what did you say? I
was watching something about the Temptation. I was watching something about David Ruffin. David Ruffin. And I'm like, yo, he's the head of the Temptations. Everybody loves him. Why didn't he have a great solo career? And it made me think of Ralph, like from New Edition. I was like, yo, do a show about why you think these two people who are at the front of 2 of the biggest groups ever didn't have a good, successful solo career. You know, because that's really unheard of. Like, normally they're the person who takes off and run it, and they didn't. Neither one of them did. So
that episode is out.
What, the one that I did? Yeah, it's out. It's out. Kill called me about 11 o'clock. Was like, yo,
he calling this nigga at like midnight.
Yes,
like,
and I was like, what? He gave me the idea, and I just started writing, and I was like, let me record this while it's on my mind, and it's almost at 1,000 views right now. So
you know they call me Real Tresvant. So
yeah, you did that on the last episode. Yes.
Yo, JP, you need to get with this dude, man. He's trying to be on his R&B shit. That's Real Tresvant.
Oh my God.
After I finish this first album, the next album is coming.
Real Tresvant is coming out to play, man.
Oh God.
Bro, where can they get at you, man?
Uptown Rail 215 on Instagram, JBen215 on Twitter.
Right? Vegas, what's going on, man?
All right, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Vegas World INC. And you can check out my weekly hip hop news podcast called Hip Hop Now Podcast, available on all streaming services or your favorite podcasting platform, but also YouTube at Hip Hop Now. And shout out to everybody who supported over the years, and 50 years of hip hop. So I have a lot to talk about. So stay tuned.
All right, and y'all already know it is with me, Kill889, Twitter, IG. Definitely appreciate the dope show. First in 2023. I will check y'all next week, good people.